Chapter 1075. Entering the courtyard, Pang Huang and Xiao Ho had yet to approach when they heard a commotion and the sound of things being smashed. "Princess, His Highness the Crown Prince will be here soon. Please calm down. Otherwise, His Highness will blame you again. We servants will also be punished." Someone pleaded from inside. "Princess? Have you ever seen a princess like this? Being monitored when she eats, when she goes to the toilet, and when she sleeps. She has no human rights at all. If you think being a princess is good, I'll let you be." A crisp female voice followed. Xiao Ho glanced at Pang Huang and found that his expression was very ugly. "It seems that your country's princess is a straightforward person." Hearing this, Pang Huang knew that Xiao Ho was giving him a way out. He pursed his lips and strode in. Clang! A vase just happened to fall beside Pang Huang's feet. Pang Zhijing looked up and met Pang Huang's angry eyes. She shrugged. "Sorry, my hand slipped." Pang Huang narrowed his eyes. The person who was afraid of him a few days ago suddenly became bold. "Are you done?" Pang Zhijing had enough of suppressing her temper these few days. She leaned against the bed wall, feeling like she was going to throw caution to the wind. "Am I not a princess? Do I have to be controlled just by smashing things for fun?" Such a shameless tone made Xiao Ho, who had just walked in, cast a glance over. Pang Zhijing also saw Xiao Ho. She snorted. "Jackals of the same lair." Her voice was not soft, but it was not soft either. Everyone present heard it. The servants who served Pang Zhijing lowered their heads and lamented in their hearts. How did they meet such a master? Pang Huang looked at her coldly, but his words were directed at the servants in the room. "All of you leave." The servants were pardoned and immediately left. Only the three of them were left in the room. Pang Zhijing could not stand the silence. She pursed her lips and said unhappily, "What are you doing here? I don't welcome you." After saying that, Pang Zhijing pulled the quilt and covered her whole body, looking like she was 1,000 miles away from them. Xiao Ho felt that there was no need to get involved in other people's family matters. He turned to Pang Huang and asked, "Where is the gift your highness mentioned? If it's not convenient, we can talk another day." Pang Huang twitched the corner of his mouth. "Princey, I'm sorry. The gift I mentioned is in this room." Although she ignored them on the surface, Pang Zhijing, who was hiding under the quilt, pricked up her ears and paid attention to the movements outside. At this time, when she heard this, she couldn't help but frown. What kind of gift was hidden in her room? Xiao Ho followed Pang Huang's line of sight and saw the bulging bag on the bed. His eyes flashed with surprise. Pang Huang nodded. "Originally, I wanted my sister to help you gain a foothold in the Sichuan. But I didn't expect that after she fell into the pool and woke up a few days ago, she became a different person. She forgot her martial arts and lost her past memories. She has lost her value. Plus, she has caused a lot of trouble these days. I have lost my patience with her." Pang Huang paused and continued, "Now, except for her appearance, she can no longer fulfill our plan. So, seeing that Prince E is still single after so many years, I'd like to fulfill your wish and give my sister to you." "I'm afraid that's not very good." Xiao Ho looked at the bed and said in a difficult tone, "I know that the Lord is worried about the marriage. In fact, in this peace negotiation, no matter who it is, as long as the princess is here, it doesn't matter. I've already chosen a new princess from the imperial family. I can send her here in a few days." Pang Huang said disapprovingly. As soon as he finished speaking, the person on the bed lifted the quilt. Her eyes widened and she angrily rebuked, "I'm the princess of a country. How can you give me away so casually? As the crown prince of a country, how can you do such a heartless thing? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the people by selling your sister for glory?" Pang Huang looked at her indifferently. "It seems that you have forgotten everything. Don't you remember who killed your brother? Do you think I can even kill my own brother, let alone you, my half-sister?" Pang Zhijing was speechless. She thought that they didn't dare to touch her because she was the princess. Now she realized that she was just a chess piece. If they used her, they would use her. If they didn't use her, they would abandon her. Her fingers hidden in the quilt began to tremble. "Coincidentally, my wolfhounds haven't eaten human flesh for a long time. Since it's the crown prince's kindness, I'll accept it. Xiao Ho smiled faintly. He didn't have the self-consciousness of disregard for human life. The two people in front of her were as cold as ice. They didn't care about human life and took it away. Pang Jijing felt sad and scared for the first time since she came to this strange world. She clenched the quilt with both hands and gritted her teeth. Okay, I promise you. I'll be a good princess. Pang Huang wasn't surprised. His expression was still indifferent. No more running away? Pang Jijing shook her head. Once you go to the Sichuan, you'll listen to Prince Yi's arrangements? Pang Jijing nodded. Okay, remember what you said tonight. If I find out that you're disloyal, I guarantee that you'll suffer a fate worse than death. Pang Huang warned. Pang Jijing pursed her lips and quietly endured this inhumane torture. Pang Huang glanced at her coldly. Then two secret guards walked in from outside the room and approached Pang Jijing. Pang Jijing was terrified. What are you doing? One of the guards held a bell-like chain in his hand towards her leg. She wanted to struggle but was held down by the other guard. She could only watch as they put the chain on her ankle. After the chain was put on, the two guards retreated. Pang Jijing retracted her leg and tried to pry the chain apart. At first, no matter how she pulled, it wouldn't budge. Only the crisp sound of the bell could be heard. Pang Huang looked on coldly. This is the exquisite lock, also known as the 7 apertures exquisite lock. As long as you wear this lock, no matter where you go, you won't be able to escape from this compass. Pang Jijing turned around and saw a palm-sized object in his hand. There was a pointer on it, and it was pointing towards her position. Could it be a tracker? You're so despicable. She squeezed these words out from between her teeth. Pang Huang chuckled. How can I achieve great things if I'm not despicable? As long as you don't play any tricks and obediently complete the task at the Sichuan, I might be happy and unlock your exquisite lock. Pang Jijing kicked the quilt angrily, as if she was venting her anger on Pang Huang. Pang Huang ignored her. He turned around and handed the compass and a bunch of keys to Xiao Ho, who had been watching from the side. Then I'll give these 7 keys and the compass to Prince. I hope you can take good care of them. If my sister runs away again, you don't have to worry about it. Xiao Ho saw Pang Jijing's eager look as she stared at the keys. He smiled and took them. The 7 apertures exquisite lock had 7 keyholes. 7 keys were needed to open it. Xiao Ho played with the keys and followed Pang Huang out, leaving Pang Jijing venting her anger on the bed with her injured leg. In the end, Pang Jijing leaned against the bed wall and closed her eyes with a bitter smile. She was so unlucky. However, she definitely won't give up her freedom. Xiao Ho, just you wait and see. Chapter 1076. Walking out of the room, Pang Huang turned to face Xiao Ho. After this incident, This Highness has discovered that you are smarter than I thought. Facing the other party's undisguised praise, Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows and smiled. Your Highness is too kind. I will return home tonight. My sister and the following matters will be left to you. Pang Huang thought for a moment. Now that he had obtained the medicine sovereign fruit, he must return as soon as possible to hand it over to the imperial physician and have them refine the medicine to treat his injuries. Your Highness, please rest assured. Xiao Ho slightly bowed. Pang Huang did not say anything else and turned to leave with his people. Watching Pang Huang disappear into the darkness, Xiao Ho slowly walked back to his courtyard. At this time, the subordinate following behind Xiao Ho asked in confusion, Master, what did Prince of Nansong mean by his words just now? Xiao Ho explained, just now, he did not really intend to send another princess over. This is not practical and cannot be carried out. He only wanted to scare the Southern Song princess, but I saw through his intentions and cooperated with him to put on a show for the Southern Song princess to see, forcing her to submit. So that's how it is. But in this subordinate's opinion, since this princess has already forgotten everything, why is she still staying? The subordinate continued to ask. Although this princess's behavior is strange, it is not without value. She is very clever, otherwise she would not have been able to escape from under their eyes several times in a row. Keeping such a person by my side may play a vital role. Xiao Ho played with the key in his hand and smiled coldly. The days passed and a new day came. Pang Jijing woke up and knew that the cold-blooded crown prince was no longer with the group. She felt like the monkey was king when the tiger was not at home. She looked at the silver bell chain on her ankle. If she did not know its use, it would have looked quite beautiful. She reached out and touched one of the bells, letting out a crisp and moving sound. Unfortunately, it was used to restrict her personal freedom. She rolled her eyes and called out loudly, "Servants!" As soon as the words fell, 2 servant girls ran in from outside. "Princess, what's the matter?" Because of her escape during this period, the maidservant was always vigilant. Pang Jijing found that the 2 servant girls in front of her were looking at her very nervously. It seemed that her performance during this period of time had been deeply ingrained in their hearts. If she wanted to escape, she had to behave for a period of time to lower their guard. "It's nothing. I'm hungry. Let's get something to eat," Pang Jijing said with a smile. The 2 maidservants looked at each other and felt that as long as the princess did not cause trouble, anything would be fine. After finishing her meal under the watchful eyes of the 2 servant girls, Pang Jijing rubbed her round belly. Then she stretched out her legs and said calmly, "Find me a few good-looking hairpins. I'm a princess, and my hair is always disheveled. What do I look like?" A maidservant righteously brought up the orders from above. "Princess, please bear with it. The higher-ups said that before you arrive at the capital of Sichuan, you are not to be given any sharp weapons to prevent you from doing anything inappropriate or harming yourself." Pang Jijing's eyes twitched. She was probably worried that she would commit suicide or use it to hurt others. This Pang Huang, he even calculated such a small matter. He was really too much. "Forget it, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll just ask for something else." Pang Jijing had a benevolent look on her face. In the courtyard, Xiao Ho was flipping through a book. "Your Highness, Lord Tory said that we can set off this afternoon. He sent this humble subject to ask if there are any other arrangements." The one who spoke was the Assistant Minister of Rights, Chai Xingyu, who had followed him here this time. Xiao Ho muttered to himself, "Give the order directly. We'll set off this afternoon." Chai Xingyu replied. Xiao Ho asked casually, "Did the princess act strangely today?" "I heard from the servants that it was quite normal. She just asked for a lot of things early in the morning, including food and toys. She also said that she wanted to learn how to sew. She said that she could only be a good wife and a good mother when she arrives at the Sichuan." When Chai Xingyu said this, his face was full of disdain. Such a barbaric girl could not compare to the gentle and virtuous women of the Sichuan. But Xiao Ho's fingers paused at his words, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Sure enough, as this prince expected, she still won't stop. Chai Xingyu did not understand. "Lord, what do you mean by this?" "You don't need to know too clearly." Xiao Ho stood up and slowly said, "Go to the princess courtyard." Chu Qingyan was leisurely waiting in the prince's residence's backyard. Because the weather was too hot, she did not want to go out for a stroll, so she hid in the study room filled with ice to cool off. Where's Sichuan? Ever since she came back from the poetry competition that day, she had not seen the shadow of her good friend, young Master Hua. Before Master left, she said that she might stay outside for a few days before coming back. Xining smiled as she handed over the melon with a toothpick inserted into it to her master. It was obvious that this person took Lin Darren out to take refuge. Chu Qingyan opened her eyes and gritted her teeth. Who was the one who had assured her that she could be at ease? She was going to chop her up. "Jasper, send someone to tell her not to come back if she has the guts." Jasper obeyed. The person who was biting a chicken leg in the restaurant suddenly choked. Lin Fengyi saw this and immediately reached out to touch her back, forcing her to spit out the meat. "It's finally out, I almost choked to death." Hua Xishuan suddenly gulped down a mouthful of water, feeling like she had just survived a disaster. Lin Fengyi's lips rose into a smile. "What did you do this time? Am I a troublemaker in your eyes?" She glared at him in dissatisfaction. "I didn't say that." Lin Fengyi spread his hands. "But when do you plan on returning to the King of England's residence? I also want to. It's been so hot outside these past few days. Qingyan's place is more comfortable." After she sighed, her expression became conflicted. But I don't know if the storm has passed. I don't want to be chased and beaten by her as soon as I go back. I can't beat her in a fight. Lin Fengyi looked at her as if she was reaping what she had sown. Xiao Su has his reasons for doing things. Don't go against him in the future, especially when it's about Miss Chu. Hua Shixuan hugged her head and whined, "Don't say any more, I know I'm wrong. I won't drink with Qingyan in the future, even if she wants to drink, I'll hold her back." Lin Fengyi laughed, "I'm going back to the prince's residence today, do you want to come along? Anyway, you can hide for a while, but you can't hide forever." Hua Shixuan scratched her head. Actually, she wasn't afraid of her good friend, but the iceberg lord behind her good friend. She held Lin Fengyi's hand and said pitifully, "If the King of England wants to settle accounts with me, you have to stand out and help me. Let's go." Lin Fengyi pulled her up. Regarding this matter, he wasn't worried about Xiao Su at all. On the contrary, he heard that Xiao Su was in good spirits these past few days, and he was more humane than before. It must have something to do with Chu Qingyan's drinking incident. But he didn't intend to tell Hua Shixuan. This matter was to teach her a lesson, so that she wouldn't get into trouble next time. This was the Lin family's motto: use others to achieve your goal, but don't let your wife blame you, killing two birds with one stone. Hua Shixuan thought that she was a cunning fox, but she didn't know that there was always a taller mountain, and a fox was more cunning than a fox. Chapter 1077. Chu Qingyan felt very embarrassed after coming back to her senses after being intimate with Big Ice Cube for 2 days. She didn't dare to look at him directly for a few days. It just so happened that Xiao Su was busy setting up defenses both inside and outside the city, so he didn't have a chance to catch her and properly interrogate her. He thought that if he let her stay alone for 2 days, with her temperament, she would quickly forget about this matter. Today, Lin Fengyi walked into Xiao Su's study. Xiao Su looked up when he heard footsteps. "You're finally willing to show yourself?" Lin Fengyi found a chair and sat down when he heard his good friend's teasing. "I think it's time to come back and see how satisfied you are." Xiao Su choked and coughed lightly. He didn't say anything. Lin Fengyi was amused. "It seems like this coincidentally happened in your sleeves. This girl is always worried that you'll find her for revenge. It seems like you're going to give her a red packet." Xiao Su had already regained his composure. He glanced at him and said, "Don't talk nonsense and ruin Ian's reputation." Lin Fengyi was shocked. "Are you serious? You can actually hold it in?" Xiao Su said indifferently, "You talk too much." Lin Fengyi retracted his shocked expression and shrugged. "Alright, I won't ask. However, I have to remind you that since you've already decided, you should get married as soon as possible to avoid unnecessary trouble." Xiao Su was silent for a moment. He felt that his good friend's words were not without reason. Lin Fengyi knew that his good friend was a smart person and didn't need him to worry too much. "Oh right, I heard that you've already started setting up defenses?" Lin Fengyi's expression became much more serious when they started talking about business. Xiao Su nodded. "The Southern Heavenly Envoy group should arrive in half a month. I heard that the Tianji unit that was originally in charge of the city's defenses is made up of the sons of the imperial court officials. They're all a bunch of troublemakers and have caused you a lot of trouble recently. Are you confident that you can deal with them?" Lin Fengyi asked. Xiao Su's expression was indifferent. "Since they're wearing the military uniform and are in my hands, they have to follow my rules. If they disobey, they can only be dealt with according to military law." Lin Fengyi thought for a moment. "I heard that the Tianji unit took in many ignorant and incompetent sons of officials. However, because of the power behind them, His Majesty could only turn a blind eye to them. Now that His Majesty has handed the Tianji unit to you, I feel that His Majesty's intentions." Xiao Su put down the letter in his hand, his eyes deep and unfathomable. "There's nothing to think about. As long as the Southern Heavenly Envoys leave, this heavy responsibility will be lifted." Lin Fengyi glanced at him. His eyes were lowered and his expression was indifferent. No one could see any emotions in his eyes. Lin Fengyi sighed softly in his heart. In reality, he knew why the emperor had done this. Firstly, the people in the Tianji battalion were not to be trifled with. Xiao Su was ruthless and could not stand their laziness. he would definitely punish them. At that time, he would offend most of the officials in the court. Secondly, these disciples would bear a grudge against him and would not stand on his side in the future. His Majesty was killing two birds with one stone. If he could deal with the Tianji unit, they would be reborn and become an important barrier in the capital. If he couldn't, he would be able to plant prejudice against his good friend in their hearts. Lin Fengyi couldn't help but wonder how much fear a father had to go to this extent for his son. Even an outsider like him could see the trick. He didn't believe that his good friend couldn't. However, his good friend chose to ignore it. Because he didn't covet that high position, all of this didn't matter to him. However, Lin Fengyi didn't understand. Even he could see his good friend's attitude. Why wouldn't His Majesty let go of a son who gave unconditionally for the country and the people and didn't covet riches and power? Could it be that the higher a person was, the more cautious they would be and the less they would trust others? He wondered if there would be a day when it would backfire. Would His Majesty suddenly wake up and regret it? However, he didn't wish for such a moment to come. It would mean that mountains and rivers would be overturned and rivers of blood would flow. You came here today for this matter? Xiao Su was silent for a moment. Seeing that he was in a daze, he took the initiative to speak. Lin Fengyi came back to his senses and remembered the important matter. There's one more thing. It hasn't rained in a long time. A few cities in the north are already showing signs of drought. If it goes further north, it will be even more serious. If it still hasn't rained by the middle of the month, it will lead to a disaster. I heard that your mother has told His Majesty that she plans to go to the National Temple and pray for rain for a period of time. Xiao Su raised an eyebrow. I've been busy setting up defenses these days and haven't heard of this. However, it seems that you haven't been in Jing for long, but you are quite well informed. Lin Fengyi shook his head at Xiao Su's teasing. You can still laugh now, but it won't be the same later. Xiao Su couldn't help but frown. What do you mean? Lin Fengyi didn't keep him in suspense. Your mother is praying for rain this time to set an example. Many Furins and misses have smelled the intention and want to take this opportunity to curry favor and show their faces. They all recommend themselves, but you are busy with official business and don't worry about things that have nothing to do with you. Your little Wang Fei also doesn't pay attention to outside matters, so it's impossible for her to know these things. But you have to know that your little Wang Fei is the Empress' prospective daughter-in-law. She hasn't said anything for so many days, so I'm afraid that many people are laughing at her. Your Mu Fei will lose face and will definitely make trouble for your little Wang Fei. At that time, you have to pray for good luck. Xiao Su didn't understand the twists and turns between women. Hearing his good friend's reminder, he frowned slightly. If it wasn't a serious matter, his good friend wouldn't specially mention it. At this time, he had a hidden worry in his heart. Because he knew that Muhu was dissatisfied with the little fellow from the beginning. He didn't know if Muhu would use this matter to make an example. At this time, Hualing knocked on the door and entered the study. Master, the Empress has sent someone to the Wang Fu. Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi couldn't help but look at each other. They could see the understanding in each other's eyes. In the rear courtyard, Chu Qingyan was about to grab Hua Xiao and give her a fat beating when Jasper came in. Master, Aunt Luo Yun who serves the Empress has come. Chu Qingyan was stunned and took back her hand. What did she come to the Wang Fu for? This subordinate also doesn't know. She's in the guest room right now. Jasper replied. Let's go take a look. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Hua Xiao had finally escaped from the tiger's mouth with great difficulty, so she immediately jumped far away. Chu Qingyan looked at her in annoyance, then brought Jasper and Xining to the guest room. Greetings to Miss Chu. When Chu Qingyan appeared, Luo Yun bowed in greeting. Chu Qingyan gave her a seat and exchanged a few words with her. She only had an impression of this Luo Yun a few times in her memory. Especially 5 years ago when she was delivering a message for the Empress and didn't see the big ice cube, as well as the hurried glance at the palace banquet this time. Now that they were face to face, she could feel the ill intent coming from Luo Yun. Does Aunt Luo Yun have something important to discuss with Qingyan in the Wang Fu? She asked with a faint smile. Because it hasn't rained for many months, many cities and towns have experienced a drought. The Empress is merciful and plans to gather all the madams and misses in the capital to pray for the common people. The Empress has ordered this servant to invite Miss Chu to come with us, Luo Yun said with a fake smile. Chapter 1078. How many days will it take? At least 3 days, at most 7 or 8 days. Praying for blessings requires sincerity, so the longer the better. Chu Qingyan's eyes twitched. Do I have the right to choose? Hearing Chu Qingyan's words, Luo Yun's eyes twitched. She felt that this girl did not know how to appreciate favors. Miss Chu, allow this servant to say something unpleasant. As His Highness fiancé and the future consort of the King of England, there will be many such things in the future. Do you think that with His Highness' support, you can ignore these favors? At this point, Luo Yun added in a cold voice, if you want to sit firmly in the position of consort, you should know that at this time, it's best to make connections. Even though we're just women, we can more or less build a foundation for His Highness' future path. Moreover, this was personally organized by the Empress. As the future daughter-in-law, it wouldn't be appropriate for you not to go, right? Chu Qingyan had to admit that her words were reasonable, but her tone made people feel very uncomfortable. After sending off Luo Yun, Chu Qingyan leaned back in her chair and covered her eyes with her fingers. She felt more tired than fighting a battle. Hua Xiao leaned against the door frame and secretly poked her head out. After seeing that there was no danger, she dared to walk in. What's wrong? Did that old woman make things difficult for you? Chu Qingyan was originally gloomy, but after hearing her teasing, she couldn't help but laugh. That Luo Yun was at most 30 or 40 years old. Being described by Hua Xiao like this, she felt a bit wronged. Even if she wants to make things difficult for me, I don't care. Seeing her laugh, Hua Xiao let out a sigh of relief. She smiled very infuriatingly. I like your scoundrel appearance. Right, why did she find you? Empress Liang wants to go to the National Temple to make a name for herself and wants me to go with her. I don't know what she's planning in secret. Chu Qingyan felt a headache coming on. Hua Xiao shrugged. When it comes to royal power, I can't do anything about it. You're on your own. Chu Qingyan glanced at her. I'm not counting on you. Let's get back to the main topic. You ran away from the battle a few days ago and left me in the prince's mansion. Should I settle it with you? Seeing that her good friend had already rolled up her sleeves, she jumped out of her sleeves and ran out. Seeing the figure disappear through the door, Chu Qingyan's purposeful expression broke as she laughed uncontrollably. What are you so happy about? A low voice came from outside the door. Chu Qingyan took a closer look and saw a tall and elegant figure appear by the door. Why are you here? Aren't you busy? Xiao Su walked in with a stride. I heard Hua Ling say that someone from the palace came, so I came to see you. Your Empress Mother wants me to go to the National Temple to pray for rain for the citizens. She said concisely. If you don't want to go, I can tell Empress Mother. He sat down next to her and said in a calm voice. It seemed like Feng Yi had guessed correctly. Chu Qingyan looked at him dejectedly. This is no longer a matter of whether you are willing to step in or not. This is a matter of whether I can maintain my position as princess consort. Your Empress Mother is already unhappy with me, a daughter-in-law that she did not choose. This time, I did not volunteer myself, which made her even more unhappy. Today, she did not send someone here to discuss this matter with me, but to inform me directly. Even if you can help me hold them back for a while, can you hold them back forever? You might even anger her even more. AI, why is this baby's life so hard? At first, he felt that he had let the little fellow down, but when he heard her moaning, and most of her moaning, his worries were half gone. Then you've decided to go? He reached out to stroke her head as he asked. Does it even need to be said? Her lips curled and her eyes were firm. Also, I want to use this chance to see what your Empress Mother wants to do to let my father and mother go. Don't get involved in this matter, I'll take care of it myself. His fingers moved down and pinched her chubby little face. He smiled and said, That means you already have a plan? Chu Qingyan lowered her head when she heard this. No. Xiao Su froze for a moment, then laughed out loud. He pulled her into his arms and said calmly and forcefully, "Just do whatever you want to do. If anything happens, I'll help you deal with the aftermath." "Then what if I break the sky?" She raised her head from his embrace and asked with sparkling eyes. "If you break the sky, I'll help you fix it. If not, we'll just run away together." Xiao Su lowered his head to peck her nose and laughed softly. She closed her eyes and nestled in his embrace. She sighed happily, "Big ice cube, you're so good." Xiao Su tightened his arms and his lips curved. But the two people hugging each other didn't think that the words they said today would become a prophecy in the near future. Chaoyang Palace. Luo Yun had just returned from outside the palace when one of the palace maids that served the empress walked over. "Gugu, the empress is looking for you." Luo Yun nodded, "I'll go over right now." After entering the hall, Luo Yun saw her mistress sipping tea. She quickly walked up to her mistress. "You're back? How did it go?" Empress Liang asked in a calm voice. "This servant has already delivered the message." That Yada didn't dare to resist and agreed. Luo Yun reported. "I don't think she dares to have an opinion," Empress Liang snorted coldly. "Because of her, Ben Gong has become the laughingstock of many people in the Hogong." Luo Yun knew that this time, her master's suggestion of going to the National Temple had received the support of many Furans inside and outside the court. But only the King of England's Fu hadn't made a move, causing everyone to think that Empress Liang wasn't close to this daughter-in-law. Yesterday in the Imperial Garden, Consort Yu had mocked her openly and secretly, saying that it was because mother and son weren't on good terms recently. This had angered her master so much that she had smashed several priceless vases. She agreed and said, "This Chu Qingyan is too insensible. She let master suffer so much injustice for no reason. When she goes to the National Temple, without His Highness around, you can do whatever you want with her. Won't it be up to you?" Empress Liang calmed down and raised her hand, saying, "This time, Jing Yatu and Bing Yatu will also go. Arrange for a few capable mamas to follow them and give them some advice. This time, Ben Gong wants to use this opportunity to make them stand out. In the future, they will have the capital to be promoted to the position of consort." Luo Yun said, "Yes. Right, where are the Chu couple now? Why haven't they entered the capital after so long?" Empress Liang finally remembered. Luo Yun hesitated. "According to the reports of the servants, this Chu Laoi has a lot of problems. He said that he can't stand the bumpiness of the carriage and will feel dizzy. His body doesn't feel well. The guards don't dare to rush and can only slowly move the carriage step by step and provide him with good food and drink." Empress Liang angrily slapped the table. "Why are there so many problems? Get them into the capital as soon as possible to avoid any more problems." "Yes." Luo Yun felt that this matter wasn't easy to handle, but she still forced herself to agree. Chapter 1079. In the past 2 days, the entire city was filled with rumors that Empress Liang was preparing to take the womenfolk to the National Temple to pray for rain. The people were very simple people. When they heard good news, they would praise. When they heard bad news, they would complain and be angry. Now, everyone was praising Empress Liang for having a bodhisattva's heart. She was considerate of the people and was a blessing to the country. In the private room above the restaurant, a light snort sounded. "You haven't acted yet, but your future mother-in-law has earned enough reputation. This move is really good." Chu Qingyan raised her eyes. "You close the door and eat. Don't go and join in the fun." "Okay, I know you are going to the National Temple tomorrow. Today, I will accompany you to eat a good meal to satisfy your cravings." Hua Xiao returned to the table with her hands behind her back. "Hey, can't you just let me have a proper meal? Don't bring up my sore spot, okay?" Chu Qingyan glared at her as she bit down on the bone in her mouth, making a cracking sound. Hua Xiao felt that the crunch was like biting her bone. She couldn't help but touch her arm. "Right, let's talk about business. Didn't you plan to introduce the continuation products to the capital?" "Although I was not in the palace these 2 days, I was not idle. I bought a shop and prepared to open it in 2 days." Hua Xiao looked like she was asking for praise and caress. If she had a tail, it would be wagging left and right. Chu Qingyan put down the cup in her hand. Her eyes were bright. How much goods did you bring to the capital this time? Not much, not little. Just over 1,000 taels. But when I left Jiangnan, I arranged for another group to escort the goods to the capital. They should arrive in the capital in 10 days. Hua Xiao nodded as she spoke. Chu Qingyan clapped her hands and smiled. Hua Xiao, I was not wrong about you. When I came to the capital this time, I found that the women in the capital are lacking in skincare. In addition, the climate is dry. Many people can't cover their faces with powder. As long as the first shot is successful, I believe that the continuation products in the capital will be rolling in money. Hua Xiao smirked. Of course, don't you know who I am? Although I'm not gray-haired and have a beard, I've been following my father around since I was young, learning how to do business. My experience is no worse than those old guys. Before she finished speaking, a drumstick was stuffed in her mouth. Chu Qingyan smiled. I will reward you with a big drumstick. Hua Xiao was tempted by the fragrance. She didn't say anything and ate. So this fasting is a good opportunity. Chu Qingyan looked at her good friend eating so happily and couldn't help but smile. As she picked up her cup again, she suddenly thought of something. I don't understand, Hua Xiao said incoherently. Chu Qingyan's eyes sparkled. Aren't the women of the officials going to the national temple this time? Their words and actions will affect the trends of the entire capital. As long as I use this opportunity to promote our products, I won't be afraid that no one will care about you when you open. This is what they mean by, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I thought you were going to suffer, but I didn't expect to find business opportunities. It seems that you are right to go to the national temple. Hua Xiao clapped her hands and agreed with surprise. Chu Qingyan's dark clouds disappeared. She felt that the sky was much brighter. Okay, what else do you want to eat? Order as much as you can. It's my treat. It was your treat. Did you plan to trick me from the beginning? Hua Xiao cried. Chu Qingyan smiled noncommittally. The two of them didn't eat for long before the door was pushed open. The two of them looked up at the same time and saw Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi walk in one after the other. You came at the right time. The dishes just came up. Chu Qingyan greeted them. The two of them had just left court when they received Hua Ling's report outside the palace. But they didn't expect to see two big tabby cats as soon as they walked in. Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi looked at each other and saw helplessness in each other's eyes. Meeting this kind of silly girl, they could only accept it. Hua Xiao was chewing on a bone. She saw Xiao Su carefully picking out fish bones for Hua Xiao. She fiercely stepped on Lin Fengyi's foot under the table. Look at him, and then look at yourself. I finally know what it means to be angered to death by comparison. Lin Fengyi was innocently stepped on. He glared daggers at Xiao Su. When did he become so gentle and considerate? Even if he wanted to show off his love, he shouldn't do it in public. Did he know how much trouble it would cause others? In the end, Chu Qingyan saw official Lin silently helping Hua Xiao peel the prawns. She felt that it was rare to see such a considerate boyfriend who was both civil and military. She was sincerely happy for Hua Xiao. Shui Ling has already found traces of your parents. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Xiao Su said while wiping his hands. Where? Chu Qingyan's relaxed attitude was swept away and she asked in surprise and nervousness. Qingping Town, 3 days away from the capital. Xiao Su replied. Hua Xiao was puzzled. Why are they so slow? We've already been here for several days. Lin Fengyi, who was beside her, took over the conversation with a light sigh and a smile. I heard that the other party wanted to bring your parents to the capital as soon as possible. Unfortunately, they were tormented by your father to the point that they had nothing left to live for. Now they're crawling on the road like a tortoise. Chu Qingyan's heart was still in her throat, but when she heard Lin Fengyi's words, she heaved a sigh of relief. She smiled again and said, My father is very smart. How could he be bullied so easily? However, she also knew that if it weren't for her relationship with Big Ice Cube, it was hard to say what these people would do. The most important thing now was to rescue her parents from Empress Liang. Otherwise, if they were always controlled by others, it would be very disadvantageous for both Big Ice Cube and her parents. Thinking of this, Chu Qingyan was even more determined to go to the national temple this time. That's right, that's right. How could Uncle be at a disadvantage? Those people must be very regretful that they provoked Uncle. Ha! Hua Xiao was so happy that she kept clapping. Lin Fengyi smiled. It's about time. We should go back. Xiao Su nodded. Thus, the group pushed open the door and prepared to leave. At this moment, a delicate female voice sounded. Cousin, what a coincidence. You're also here to eat? The voice was somewhat familiar. Xiao Su turned and saw two finely dressed women standing at the door of another private room. Although he had some impression of them, he couldn't remember who they were. Seeing Xiao Su frown and look at them as if they were strangers, Liang Danbing anxiously said, Cousin, I went to Jiangnan before. Have you forgotten? Chu Qingyan had just taken a step when she heard their voices. She couldn't help but narrow her eyes to look at them. So it's my two cousins. Long time no see. How have you been? She smiled faintly and calmly as she greeted them. Then, she continued, His Highness usually doesn't have much of an impression of unimportant people. Please excuse us. Chu Qingyan's appearance and her words successfully made the Liang sisters blush. Chapter 1080. Because Xiao Su was near the door, he walked out first with Lin Fengyi. Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiao were whispering behind them, so the Liang sisters did not notice them. Previously, they didn't want to come to this restaurant, but when they saw Xiao Su going up to this restaurant, they wanted to create a chance encounter. Thus, they asked the waiter in the restaurant and immediately booked a private room near him. They did not expect that Chu Qingyan would also be in this private room. When they were sent back to the capital from Jiangnan, it was a great humiliation for the sisters. Now that they met again, it was really a small world. So Miss Chu is also here. I thought it was only cousin. Liang Danbing said in a strange tone. The temperature outside was a bit high, so Chu Qingyan was not in the mood to reminisce. She did not want to have anything to do with them, so she pursed her lips. I'm tired of the food in the residence, so I came out for a walk. You must not have finished eating, right? Then we won't disturb you. We'll leave first. Liang Danjing observed and realized that Xiao Su had not said a single word from the beginning to the end. He had allowed Chu Qingyan to do all the talking. Liang Danjing felt a little displeased. They had endured the heat just to see him, but he still did not care about them. She felt a sense of malice rise in her heart as she targeted Chu Qingyan. Miss Chu is really impatient. The sun is so hot outside. Why don't you sit for a while and avoid the sun? Liang Danjing said with a smile. Her words were appropriate and considerate. Normal people would not have the heart to refuse. Hua Xiao looked at her good friend, then looked at the two people. She immediately understood the relationship between them. She crossed her arms and leaned to one side to watch the show. These two were really bold. They dared to play tricks in front of Qingyan. She was happy to watch this free show. Before Chu Qingyan could reply, Liang Danbing could not help but speak up. Lady Chu, you have just arrived in the capital city not long ago. I'm sure you are not familiar with the culture here. We have grown up here since we were young, and we can give you some pointers to prevent you from making a fool of yourself again. Chu Qingyan frowned. A big joke. That's right, Liang Danbing said in a strange tone. It's this fast. As my cousin's fiancée in name and Aunt Empress's future daughter-in-law, you should be a role model and respond. Unfortunately, you haven't said anything. Do you know how many people in the capital are laughing at you? They say you're afraid of suffering and don't want to be vegetarian. Not only have you implicated my cousin's reputation, but you've also embarrassed Aunt Empress. Don't you think it's time to learn the rules and know what to do and what not to do? Since we have time today, why don't we teach you? Liang Danjing was a little embarrassed by her sister's words. Although she wanted to make Chu Qingyan suffer, she didn't want to do it this way. She felt that her sister was being too impulsive. Miss Chu, please don't misunderstand. Little Bing is a straightforward person. She doesn't mean any harm. When Liang Danjing said this, she was looking at Xiao Su's expression. But from beginning to end, he had a cold expression. This made her heart suddenly lose confidence. Ian, it's time to go. Xiao Su spoke. He didn't even look at the Liang sisters. Chu Qingyan had prepared a retort, but after hearing the big ice cube's words, she ignored the two. Some people were like grasshoppers. The more you paid attention to them, the happier they would jump. Being ignored so thoroughly, the Liang sisters suddenly felt very embarrassed. Liang Danbing couldn't help but jump out. "Cousin, we're still your cousins. How can you always ignore us?" If Aunt knew, she would be sad. Xiao Su stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at the two indifferently. "I'll correct you one last time. If you want to keep emphasizing this king's relationship with your Liang family, then remember that Ian is your cousin-in-law. Otherwise, don't blame this king for turning hostile." After leaving behind these shocking words, Xiao Su brought Chu Qingyan downstairs without looking back. "Didn't you say the roast duck here was too greasy? When we go back, have Huang Yi make you a bowl of plum soup to get rid of the greasy taste." Xiao Su acted like there was no one else around as he asked the person beside him. He didn't seem as cold as before. "All right, I feel like I can eat another plate of lotus seed cakes." Chu Qingyan agreed with a smile. Lin Fengyi and Hua Xiuli felt that the show was about over. They tacitly turned around and left with Xiao Su. Only Liang Danjing and Liang Danbing were frozen in place by Xiao Su's cold words. "Older sister, did older cousin just say that he's going to turn hostile with our Liang family for Chu Qingyan?" Liang Danbing turned around to ask. Liang Danjing was shocked and a bit amused. Older cousin would actually abandon their Liang family for a woman? When she heard her younger sister's question in her shock, she forced herself to say, "He won't. The Liang family is his left and right arm. He won't abandon it." But Liang Danbing wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Liang Danjing. "There are no buts. You just need to remember this. Also, don't mention today's matter to father and mother." "Then are we just going to let Chu Qingyan do whatever she wants?" "Older sister, I can't take this lying down." Liang Danbing was very angry. "What are you afraid of? We'll see Chu Qingyan again during this fast. When the time comes, we'll be staying at the National Temple for a few days. You'll have plenty of opportunities to collect your debt." Liang Danjing smiled gently, but her smiling eyes seemed to be filled with venom, shining with a faint light. Liang Danbing suddenly understood and her heart felt a lot better. She thought about how to get justice for herself at the National Temple. When they got on the carriage, Chu Qingyan's smile turned into a faint smile. Why is it that when a man attracts bees and butterflies, the one who suffers is the woman by his side? When he heard this tone, he knew that the little fellow was angry. Xiao Su spread his hands. "This kind of attracting bees and butterflies is divided into active and passive. Don't define it so easily." "I don't care. Because of you, I've always suffered undeserved disasters. How are you going to make it up to me?" Chu Qingyan didn't buy his explanation. She went forward and grabbed his collar, fiercely saying. Xiao Su smiled. "I'll let you do whatever you want." Chu Qingyan's face turned red. She immediately let go of her hand and glared at him. "Stinky guy." Xiao Su smiled. His long hand scooped her up and pulled her into his embrace. Chu Qingyan's struggle was futile. She was thrown into the arms of this beautiful man. On the boundless land, Xiao Ho had escorted the Southern Blue diplomatic group for an entire day. At this moment, everyone stopped to rest on a small mountain path. At this moment, Xiao Ho was flipping through the letter from the capital. He smiled. This Empress Liang isn't stupid. She actually thought of this move. Not only did it help her gain fame, it also helped Xiao Su win the hearts of the people. This Empress Liang can't be underestimated. "Jehovah, what should we do next?" Chai Xingyu asked. "Let's not make a move. We'll wait and see. We'll talk about it when we return to the capital." Xiao Ho closed the letter. He didn't care about this matter at all. At this moment, a subordinate hurriedly ran over. "Jehovah, the princess escaped again." Xiao Ho narrowed his eyes. Chapter 1081. In the quiet forest, there were suddenly sounds of searching and soldiers everywhere. Pang Jijing tightly hugged the tree trunk and did not let go. Just now, she used the excuse of going to the toilet to sneak away under the watchful eyes of the maidservants and then climbed up the nearest tree because she subconsciously believed that the most dangerous place was the safest place. Looking at the soldiers walking back and forth below, Pang Jijing was happy and carefree. But calculating the time, Xiao Ho should have received the news of her escape. This Xiao Ho was simply too hateful. Yesterday, she had managed to cheat the embroidery needle from the maidservants with great difficulty, but before she could even try to open the lock, he found out and confiscated it. He also told the maidservants not to provide her with anything except food, drink, and clothing. Thinking back to that time when he wanted to feed her to the wolf dogs, she was afraid and hated him. Wasn't he just a little good-looking? His heart was really black. Once she left this time, she would definitely stab him with a small person and step on him a few times. But that would have to wait until she escaped to heaven. She glanced at the exquisite lock on her feet and her face darkened. She was gambling that the compass was actually Pang Huang's way of scaring her. She thought of a way to wrap the bell on her foot with a cloth so that the sound would not leak out. As long as the compass was useless, she would be able to escape safely after a few more days. At this time, she heard a group of people walking in her direction. "Lord, the princess disappeared around here." It was the voice of the maidservant who served her. "The princess's foot is injured, so she can't run far. You guys slowly expand your search area from here." Xiao Ho swept his eyes over the place and ordered everyone. "Yes." Soon, she heard the sound of everyone spreading out to search. Pang Jijing held her breath and did not dare to breathe out because she knew that in ancient times, many experts could find a hiding place through a person's breathing. But she was suffocating to death. Xiao Ho stood under a tree not far away and calmly looked at the forest. The guards who left came back to report. "Lord, we didn't find the princess." "Princess, we also didn't find her." At this moment, Chai Xingyu suggested, "Lord, you can try the compass left behind by the Prince of Nansong." When Pang Jijing heard this, she couldn't help but tense up. Why was this person so talkative? Pang Huang's eyes lit up and he said to Chai Xingyu with a troubled expression, "That compass was only used by the Prince of Nansong to scare the princess. It's useless." This. Chai Xingyu had no other choice. Pang Jijing breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. It seemed that she had made the right bet. The compass was just a bluff from Pang Huang. She was so proud that she forgot to cover her breathing. Xiao Ho glanced at the tree where Pang Jijing was hiding, and a flash of understanding appeared in his eyes. But Pang Jijing's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. This king already knows the princess's whereabouts. With that, everyone's attention was drawn to Xiao Ho, including Pang Jijing. However, she was more convinced that Xiao Ho was tricking her. And at this moment, Xiao Ho's gaze accurately landed on the tree in front of him. "Princess, how long do you plan to hide?" Pang Jijing was shocked and looked up, only to meet his confident gaze. Those guards followed Xiao Ho's instructions and immediately surrounded the tree. Now, she was surrounded on all sides. She looked at Xiao Ho, who had walked to the tree, and said angrily, "Can't you just pretend that you don't see me? This king can't do that." Xiao Ho spread his hands. Pang Jijing snorted and didn't intend to pay attention to him. Xiao Ho raised his hand and someone planned to climb up and bring her down. This action caused Pang Jijing to scream, "Don't come over." Xiao Ho smiled gently. "Does the princess plan to spend the night up there?" "I want to," she stubbornly said. Xiao Ho said considerately, "Then we'll wait until the princess is ready to come down. However, I heard that in this forest, although there aren't many wild beasts, there are quite a few reptiles. The princess' courage to stay here alone is commendable." After saying that, he turned to leave with his subordinates. Reptiles? Her first thought was the poisonous snake she saw a few days ago, and she couldn't help but feel goosebumps all over her body. Wait. Xiao Ho turned to look at her without any surprise. "Does the princess have any other orders?" Pang Jijing put on a strong front and said, "Come here." These words surprised him a little, but he still walked over and stood under the tree. Just as he was about to look up, a black shadow pounced at him. He wanted to dodge, but this would clearly expose the fact that he knew martial arts in front of others. In this moment of distraction, he landed on the ground. He looked coldly at the person hanging on his body. The princess is so skilled. Pang Jijing wanted to give herself full marks for her success, but when she came into contact with him, she felt that this person was emitting a cold aura. However, when she looked up to see what was going on, he still had a gentle smile on his face. I have no choice. My foot is injured, and those guards are clumsy. I'm afraid the wound will worsen, so I have to trouble you, Your Highness. After all, first-time strangers, second-time friends. In fact, it was because she didn't like to be touched by other men. If she had to choose one, she would rather choose the good-looking Xiao Ho. Plus, when she fell, he caught her once. In terms of safety, she trusted him more. Xiao Ho's eyes fell on her foot. It seemed to be more swollen than before, but this was not his concern. In that case, the princess can go down. Xiao Ho was still good-tempered. Pang Jijing thought this person looked easy to bully, but if she really thought so, she wouldn't know when she would be betrayed. She wouldn't admit that she felt the threat in his eyes, so she went down obediently. But before she landed, she stomped on his foot hard. After she succeeded, she jumped to a safe distance with one foot and said to him fiercely, "This is your punishment." After that, she quickly fled the scene with the help of her maid. Xiao Ho looked at the gray footprint on his shoe, and the corner of his eyes twitched. "Lord, are you okay?" Chai Xingyu didn't dare to look at him and asked in a low voice. "I'm fine." Xiao Ho turned and left. Chai Xingyu touched his nose and felt that Lord was really a little scary when he was so calm. At this moment, Pang Jijing was sitting by the fire. When she saw Xiao Ho coming from afar, she snorted and played with the firewood in her hand as if she didn't see him. The flames danced in her eyes, as if there were images of the past floating in her mind. She couldn't help but hug her knees. She really wanted to go home. The person who was supposed to pass by suddenly stood in front of her. Pang Jijing slowly raised her head, and the confusion in her eyes faded. She said vigilantly, "What do you want to do? Do you want to take revenge? Let me tell you, a gentleman won't touch a girl." Xiao Ho looked down at her. "I'll give you 3 chances." What? She was a little surprised. "If you can escape from my hands, I'll set you free." Chapter 1082. Red rain is falling from the sky? Snow in June? Is the sun rising from the west? Pang Jijing blinked as she looked at Xiao Ho in disbelief. "Are you playing with me?" "I'll only say it once." Xiao Ho calmly looked at her. All right, I promise you." Pang Jijing excitedly jumped up, forgetting that her foot was injured. With a step, she fell back with a scream. Luckily, the maid behind her quickly caught her. When Xiao Ho left, he left behind a message. "The time limit is before we enter the capital, but this king will remind the princess that there is no need to hide in the tree." Pang Jijing's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at his elegant figure. She felt that this person was not that annoying, he was really pleasing to the eye. But she later found that this person was not only annoying, he was also a wicked and cunning devil. After leaving Pang Jijing's fire, Chai Xingyu, who had been following behind Xiao Ho, finally could not help asking, "Lord, why did you give the princess a chance? That princess looks like a lamp that is not easy to deal with. Aren't we just asking for trouble like this?" Xiao Ho turned around and coldly looked at his subordinate. "Are you questioning this king's decision? This subordinate does not dare. This subordinate does not dare." Chai Xingyu immediately bowed his head in apology. When the robe in front of him disappeared from his sight, Chai Xingyu finally dared to raise his head. He pressed a hand to his chest as he slightly panted with a lingering fear. It was close to evening, but the sky was still bright and the air was still heavy. Xiao was nestled in Chu Qingyan's room, enjoying the cold wind inside. She then watched her instruct Jasper and Xining to tidy up their clothes. "Rest for a bit. I saw you so busy when I came back." Xiao could not help saying. Chu Qingyan ignored her. "We're setting off tomorrow. If I don't prepare ahead of time, I'll be flustered tomorrow." Xiao propped up her chin and was bored to death. She began to complain. "I say, this mother-in-law of yours is too much. She can just go and pray. Why does she have to drag a bunch of people with her?" If you have the ability, why don't you ask her in front of her? Chu Qingyan was almost done with her instructions. She walked back to the table and sat down. She poured herself a glass of water. It's not like you don't know that I have the heart but not the guts. Yelling at a palace master, am I tired of living? Hua Xiuli's face immediately drooped. Also, aren't I worried about you? He'll be gone for so many days, and he'll have to be a vegetarian. He'll have to face so many jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards. Just thinking about it makes me shiver. Why are you thinking so much? Chu Qingyan glanced at her. We'll have to face it tomorrow anyway. Yes, I'm just a eunuch who's more worried than the emperor. Hua Xiao shrugged his shoulders in surrender. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. I appreciate your kindness. I know you treat me the best. Hua Xiuli snorted and then continued, that's right, I forgot to ask. Who's going this time? The empress, consort Yu, those concubines, and the court officials' womenfolk. Oh, also, Xiao Ran is in charge of security this time. She heard this from the big ice cube. When she heard Xiao Ran's name, a strange expression appeared on Hua Xiuli's face. Xiao Ran is also going? I heard the big ice cube say that Xiao Ran took the initiative to ask for the imperial edict to be in charge. I didn't expect him to be so ambitious. Chu Qingyan praised. Hua Xiuli shook her head. I don't think so. What? It seems like you have some opinions about Xiao Ran. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but be curious. Hua Xiuli pursed her lips. I don't have any opinions about him. Whether he's good or bad has nothing to do with me. But I did notice something. Do you remember the serious matter I wanted to talk to you about in the carriage? It's related to him. When the carriage was mentioned, Hua Xiuli couldn't help but blush. She still remembered what Qingyan said to her in the carriage. It was Chu Qingyan didn't notice the change in her expression and became even more curious. What is it? I don't know if you noticed, but the way Xiao Ran looks at you is very strange. It doesn't seem like the way a friend would look at you. Moreover, he seems to care a lot about you. As a bystander, I feel that it's a bit strange. Hua Xiao dismissed the strange thoughts in her mind and said seriously. When Chu Qingyan heard this, she didn't think it was strange. Instead, she thought that Hua Xiuli was thinking too much. She smiled and said, Xiao Ran and I are friends. We met 5 years ago. I'm also his future sister-in-law, so it's normal for him to be close to me. And with their noble status, it's usually hard for them to make true friends. I'm his only friend, so I don't think it's strange. No, Qingyan, don't think it's so simple. In any case, I believe in my eyes and intuition. Hua Xiuli shook her head, not agreeing with her words. Chu Qingyan was puzzled. Forget it. Just take it that I'm thinking too much. Right now, you should worry about your fasting. You can't eat meat for several days and can't come back. The heavens have pity on you. All right, I won't disturb you and your highness. When Hua Xiuli saw the person walking in, she stood up and winked at Chu Qingyan. Then, without waiting for her to respond, she walked out. Chu Qingyan turned to call out to her to explain, but she saw Xiao Su slowly walking over. What are you talking about? Xiao Su walked in front of her. He looked at the prepared bundle on the table and asked with a puzzled expression. She smiled and shook her head. I was just playing with Hua Xiuli. How did you have time to come over? I came to see you. He rubbed her head and smiled. When Jasper and Xining saw this, they immediately covered their mouths and snickered and quickly left the room. Chu Qingyan heard the servant girls teasing and glared at him with a slightly red face. In a certain residence in the capital. Young palace master, who do you plan to send to the national temple tomorrow? Xuanxi Zimo asked the person sitting at the table. Higashio Motetsu was dressed in a purple brocade robe and was lazily leaning against the main seat. When he heard this, he slowly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of beautiful phoenix eyes. Father's orders? Xuanxi Zimo replied, yes. The palace master said that His Highness Fourth Highness will be in charge of the security arrangements for the national temple this time. He wants you to send a few experts to protect His Highness Fourth Highness. Father really cares about this Xiao Ran. Higashio Motetsu's expression was indifferent, and no one could tell what he was thinking. Xuanqizimo didn't dare to say anything and only lowered his head. Higashio Motetsu suddenly asked, "Is Qingyan going this time as well?" "I heard that Empress Liang personally asked her to go." Xuanqizimo didn't dare to delay and immediately replied. With that, Higashio Motetsu fell silent. Just when Xuanqizimo thought that his master wouldn't say anything else, he suddenly heard him say, "This time, this young master will go personally." Xuanqizimo was stunned, but he didn't dare to ask any more questions and immediately agreed. When Higashio Motetsu was the only one left in the room, he fell into deep thought. Finally, he smiled lightly, but it was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. "Qingyan, I've been hiding from you for so long. It's time to show yourself." Chapter 1083. As they were about to part, Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su stood in the courtyard to talk. "If there's anything, you can ask Jasper to contact Water Spirit. I'll ask her to keep an eye on your situation." Xiao Su looked at her and said seriously. Chu Qingyan found it funny. She took his hand and joked, "Big Ice Cube, I'm going to fast, not to fight a war. You've already told me so many things since last night. It's been a long time since you've left me for so long." Xiao Su's calm statement of facts succeeded in making Chu Qingyan quiet down and listen attentively. "Okay, please continue. This little one is listening." Xiao Su was interrupted by her mischievous spirit and couldn't help but be amused. He smiled helplessly and finally reached out to rub her head. He said dotingly, "I can't accompany you this time. Be careful." After saying that, he pulled her into his arms and tightened his arms. Although he didn't say anything, his body language constantly conveyed his reluctance to part. She originally wanted to say a few words to dilute the sad atmosphere between them. But for some reason, when the light ink fragrance of the big ice cube lingered at the tip of her nose, she couldn't help but want to indulge in this clean and warm embrace forever. "Big Ice Cube, I really can't bear to part with you." It wasn't because she was pretentious, but because it was difficult for them to move forward in the capital. No matter what you did, there were countless eyes watching you. For example, with this matter of fasting, how many people were looking at you as a joke? But because of this powerful society, if you were one rank lower than the officials, you were inferior to them. You had to obey the orders from above. Chu Qingyan felt that this wasn't a place where people could cry and laugh as they wanted. In the future, she could expect that it would be an abyss of suffering for a period of time. The little fellow's words caused Xiao Su's heart to soften. He lowered his head and kissed her. It wasn't as domineering and direct as before, but extremely lingering. It made people unable to stop and was filled with reluctance. In the end, she tightly hugged his waist and made a decision. Since she had decided to come to the capital, she shouldn't always stay in the Wangfu. She had to act when she needed to. As long as she protected herself and didn't cause trouble for the big ice cube, those who wanted to cause trouble, she would beat them up one by one. "Big Ice Cube, I will take care of myself, don't worry," she said seriously. "All right, I will have Huang Yi to prepare your favorite food and wait for your return." Even though he was reluctant, Xiao Su couldn't keep her company at this time, so he said in a low voice to keep her company to her. In the corner of the long corridor, Huang Yi to keep her eyes onto the two embracing each other in the courtyard. Even though she was unwilling to leave, but she had to make use of the chance to use this time to make the best use this time to make use this chance while the Wang Fei was not in the Fu. Think to do so make use of. Before sending her off, Hua Xiao had emphasized that if someone bullied her, she had to pay back an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. After getting on the carriage, Chu Qingyan said to Xining and Jasper in amusement, "I didn't think much of it at first, but hearing them say it now, I feel like I'm going to a dragon's lair or a tiger's den." Xining couldn't help but laugh. This description is too scary, but everyone is worried about Mistress. She nodded and then ordered, "When we go to the National Temple this time, we will be low-key. We won't get into conflict with people and won't cause trouble, understood?" Jasper and Xining both acknowledged. This time, they were gathering at the palace gates. Because the big ice cube needed to go to the military camp to train the new soldiers, he couldn't come with her. But she didn't think that this would become a topic of criticism. Who said that His Highness Prince Ing had been hiding his fiancée in the prince's mansion and treasuring her so much? Why did he let her go out alone and didn't even send her off? When they arrived at the palace gates, there were already many carriages waiting there. When they saw Chu Qingyan's carriage, they started to whisper. Some of them wanted to embarrass Chu Qingyan, so they didn't control their volume. Inside the carriage, Xining couldn't sit still. She wanted to rush out and reason with them, but she was stopped by her master. "Mistress, they're going too far." Xining's eyes were red with anger. Chu Qingyan was unmoved. "Did you forget what I told them before we left? Didn't they use words to provoke us so that we would fly into a rage out of humiliation? We couldn't control ourselves from the start. When we enter the national temple in the future, won't we be so angry that we'll vomit blood?" She knew that Xining and Jasper were inexperienced girls. They couldn't stand these women who cultivated in the inner residence all day long. It was normal for them to lose their cool and be angered. Then are we going to let them bully us like this? Xining was a little unwilling. Jasper said, "Xining, listen to mistress first. Don't be rash." Chu Qingyan laughed. "You've been with me for so long. Do you think that I'm someone who will be taken advantage of?" Xining shook her head. "That's right. Those people outside are actually the least worthy of our attention. They only know how to provoke a war of words. Often, they don't have any real ability. At most, they're just showing off. They don't do any real harm to us. Often, it's those who don't move on the surface but scheme in the dark that are truly terrifying." Chu Qingyan felt that perhaps this was an opportunity to properly nurture the two of them. Only then would they be able to hold their own in the future. Thus, she spoke in great detail. "That's why, for those who like to make things difficult with words, the more you pay attention to them, the more excited they become. If you ignore them, they'll feel that they're not interested and will cease their banners and drums. Thus, there's no need to bicker with these people on the surface. You'll raise their status, but you'll end up lowering your own." Xining and Jasper both benefited greatly from this and nodded in agreement. Xining said somewhat excitedly, "So mistress means that the dog that bites doesn't bark, and the dog that barks doesn't bite?" Chu Qing broke into laughter and said to Jasper, "Xining's analogy is really vivid." A trace of a smile also appeared on Jasper's stoic face. Xining rubbed her head and also smiled foolishly. "However, we can't just suffer in silence for no reason. Jasper, remember these people's carriages today and have Water Spirit investigate their origins. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win. In any case, I have all the time in the world to collect these debts." Chu Qingyan's smile disappeared and her expression became somewhat cold. She was quite similar to Xiao Su's usual style. Jasper replied, "Yes." Xining suddenly understood. "Mistress, this servant understands. We have to deal with different people differently. For some people, we can't immediately retaliate. We can wait until later to deal with them. It seems that this little melon seed is quite enlightened. Not bad. As an encouragement, come, let me reward you with good news." Chu Qingyan pinched her smooth little face. "What good news?" Xining was pleasantly surprised. "This time, your family's gene Xin is also here." "Ah, mistress is so annoying." Xining covered her face. "Huh." Chapter 1084. The people outside talked for a long time in this hot summer, but there was no movement from the other party. They couldn't help but ask for a rebuff, and went to rest. Many times, the more arrogant and despotic others were, the more you didn't take them seriously, and the more frustrated they would feel. They couldn't do anything to you, and could only be a clown at the side. This was the case at the palace gates. When those people heard the cheerful laughter coming from Chu Qingyan's carriage, they couldn't help but suffer internal injuries. It turned out that the other party didn't even want to pay attention to them. Right at this moment, a carriage approached them. When Chu Qingyan heard the news, she lifted the curtain and saw Qi Lingyi and Yu Tianyue sitting in the opposite carriage. When they were being ostracized by everyone, the two of them were still willing to get close to them. It was really quite surprising. You're here too? She smiled and greeted them. Big Sister Chu, when we heard that you were here, Big Sister Lingy and I came to find you. Yu Tianyue said happily as soon as she saw him. Qi Lingy, who was beside her, also nodded at her with a smile. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but smile. I'm very happy that you still remember me. It's hard to forget a girl like you who's so good-looking, gentle, and friendly to others. Yu Tianyue had a childish temperament, so she spoke with such sincerity and joy that others couldn't help but smile. Did you eat too much honey today? Why are you speaking so sweetly? Chu Qingyan teased her. At this moment, Qi Lingy looked around and asked softly, Big Sister Chu, His Royal Highness didn't come with you? Before Chu Qingyan could answer, Xining had already replied indignantly, If His Highness came, my master wouldn't have to suffer these people's idle anger. That's true. I also heard people talking about it just now. I think it's probably because they're full and have nothing to do. Sister Chu, you don't have to pay attention to them. Yu Tianyue very considerately comforted her. Chu Qingyan smiled gently. She felt that this little girl was quite cute. I know, I didn't take it to heart. Qi Lingy nodded in agreement. In fact, when she heard that the King of England didn't send Chu Qingyan here, she was a little regretful that she couldn't see him. However, she was more thankful that the King of England didn't dote on her that much. No one knew what Qi Lingy was thinking. The sun was getting brighter and brighter. There were eunuchs from the palace in front of them registering the number of people. Before they reached them, Chu Qingyan had 2 servant girls take out the pastries in the carriage and share them with the 2 misses. Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingy were polite at first, but in the end, they couldn't resist the temptation of the delicious food and asked the maid beside them to take it. Yu Tianyue took a bite and exclaimed in surprise, This plum blossom crisp is delicious. Big Sister Chu, where did you buy this? This was made by the servant girls in our fu. It's not sold outside. Xining smiled as she replied. So that's how it is. No wonder I, who is invincible in the capital, haven't eaten it before. Yu Tianyue suddenly realized. She didn't have time to speak and picked up another piece to eat. Qi Lingy put down the pastry in her mouth, her eyes full of inquiry. I've heard before that His Royal Highness has a few servant girls who are very skilled in various fields, including food, housing, and transportation. Xining was a little surprised. Miss Qi actually knows. That's true. They are very skilled. This servant also admires them. Chu Qingyan smiled faintly. This is called specialization in a field. As long as you concentrate on one area, you will achieve amazing results. Don't belittle yourself. You also have your own unique areas. Go back and work hard to settle accounts with me. Xining stuck out her tongue. Master wants to squeeze this servant's surplus labor again. You actually learned to ridicule me. Are you itching for a beating? She pretended to threaten. Xining immediately cooperated and softly said, This servant doesn't dare. Master, please spare me. This scene caused everyone to burst into laughter. Qi Lingy said enviously, Big Sister Chu, your relationship is so good. When Chu Qingyan saw the envious gazes of Qi Lingy and Xue Ling, she recalled the information that Xue Ling had given her. Although these 2 young ladies were born of the main wife, they still had a few brothers and sisters who were born of concubines in the residence. Their interactions with the servants were definitely not a simple master-servant relationship. There was definitely some hidden infighting within the inner courtyard. Unlike her, Xining, and Jasper, these people were all trained by her and were also her capable assistants. She suddenly felt that she was lucky not to have been born into such a complicated family. We grew up together, so our relationship is naturally deeper. Right? Why are the 2 of you sitting in the same carriage? Chu Qingyan was curious. Yu Tianyue said quickly, It's like this. Because the journey to the National Temple is a bit long, I was afraid that the journey would be boring, so I asked Big Sister Lingy's mother to let her sit with me. So we traveled together. Chu Qingyan nodded, indicating that she understood. At this moment, Yu Tianyue wiped her face and complained, It's so hot today. I hope it will rain after praying for blessings to lower the temperature. Little Sister Tianyue, wipe carefully. Your makeup is almost ruined. Qi Lingyi turned and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Chu Qingyan turned to look in the direction of the voice and saw Yu Tianyue's face with patches of red and white, like a little kitten. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. Then what should I do? The weather is too hot. I want to wipe the sweat off my face. Yu Tianyue had a long face. When she heard Chu Qingyan's laughter, she couldn't help but turn to look at her with grievance. She just happened to see that there wasn't a single trace of sweat on her sparkling and translucent skin, as if she had discovered a new continent. Big Sister Chu, why does your face look like it just peeled off an eggshell? It's so smooth and translucent, so enviable. At the same time, these words attracted Qi Lingyi. She discovered that not only Chu Qingyan, but even her two servant girls' makeup was more delicate than the young ladies'. It felt like they didn't have any makeup on, but they were very beautiful and exquisite. Chu Qingyan blinked and a light flashed in her eyes. She found a business opportunity. Maybe it's because the rouge and face powder I use is different from yours, so I can maintain the makeup on my face and not ruin it. What rouge and face powder? Big Sister Chu, please tell us. When it came to the topic of beauty and hair, the girls were very enthusiastic and interested. Yu Tianyue, with a little kitten's face, asked anxiously. It comes from Jiangnan, and the merchants gave it the name of Jianxing. There are a lot of products in it, such as lipstick, face cream, moisturizer, foundation, and so on. The effect is very good. These products are very popular in Jiangnan, but maybe they haven't spread to the capital. Maybe if I tell you, you won't have much of an idea. How about this? Since there's still some time before we set off, why don't you come to my carriage? I'll let someone touch up Tianyue's makeup, and you'll know the effect when you experience it yourself. Chu Qingyan's suggestion immediately received the response of the two young ladies, and they got off the carriage one after another. Chapter 1085. The people who had been paying attention to Chu Qingyan's situation were very surprised to see Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi running into her carriage. Qi Lingyi's father was the grand scribe, a famous pedantic old scholar. He only insisted on right or wrong and was very stubborn. Yu Tianyue's father was a military cavalry officer. He usually walked around the Sichuan emperor and was full of brute force. Both of them were neutral parties in the court and did not attach themselves to any prince. One was too stubborn and the other was too timid. Now that both of their daughters had coincidentally entered the future King of England's consort's carriage, this signal made people from the other parties somewhat unable to sit still. One spread to 10, and 10 to 100, and the surrounding people's gazes fell on Chu Qingyan's carriage. Of course, the people inside the carriage did not know what the people outside were thinking. At this time, Yu Tianyue was sighing, "Big Sister Chu, your carriage is so cool. It's like the difference between ice and fire." His Highness knows that my master is afraid of heat, so he had people put a lot of ice in the carriage. In addition, the design of our carriage is different from the ones on the market. It has a very big function, which is ventilation. Don't look at these curtains and pillows. They are made of ice silk and are very cool to the touch. Xining opened the small box and took out the products, explaining with a smile. Yu Tianyue's eyes were shining. She touched the curtains and said enviously, "His Royal Highness treats Big Sister Chu so well. He even thought of these details. People outside say that the King of England is unromantic and doesn't know how to be considerate. I think it's all a lie. Rumors can't be trusted." At the side, Qi Lingyi was looking at the carriage. When she heard Xining's words, she felt a strong sense of envy in her heart. It turned out that His Royal Highness was such a considerate person. She really hoped that she could replace Sister Chu and enjoy his thoughtfulness. Chu Qingyan was amused by Yu Tianyue's straightforward words, but she still expressed her own opinion. Actually, to judge a person's good or bad, you shouldn't just listen to rumors, but you should interact with him face to face. The rumors outside really don't match my highness. Yu Tianyue still wanted to say something, but Chu Qingyan raised her hand and said with a smile, "Little cat, you'd better deal with your face first. Otherwise, how will you face people when you go out later?" Only then did Yu Tianyue realize this. She immediately shut her mouth and looked at her anxiously. Everyone was amused by her appearance. Chu Qingyan waved her hand and asked Xining to come up and do her makeup again. After that, the two of them were attracted by the things that Xining took out. They felt that it was very strange, but it was very comfortable to use. Yu Tianyue kept asking questions, and Xining explained to her while doing her makeup. Yu Tianyue couldn't see the makeup process, so she could only feel that it was comfortable. Qi Lingyi, who was watching from the side, was more and more shocked by the changes on Yu Tianyue's face. At first, she would still talk to Yu Tianyue, but in the end, she was completely stunned. What's wrong? Is it very strange? After Xining finished doing her makeup, Yu Tianyue was about to take the mirror that Jasper handed over. When she saw her friend's expression, she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Look at the mirror yourself. Qi Lingyi widened her eyes. Yu Tianyue picked up the mirror uneasily. When the image in the mirror appeared clearly in front of her eyes, she couldn't help but raise her hand to touch her face. Looking at the woman with white teeth and red lips, she asked the person in front of her in a daze, "This person is really me?" "It's the real deal." Chu Qingyan smiled faintly. "It's so amazing. It's like I'm a different person. I can't believe I can be so beautiful." "Sister Ling, look, I've become prettier." Yu Tianyue was wild with joy. "You're already very pretty. These products are just the icing on the cake." Chu Qingyan looked at the cute and beautiful girl in front of her, and the corners of her eyes were tinged with a smile. "Thank you, Sister Chu," Yu Tianyue said gratefully. At this moment, Qi Lingyi said timidly, "Sister Chu, I also want to wear this makeup. Can I?" Chu Qingyan's face lit up. Of course. She couldn't ask for more. These two girls were definitely more popular than her in the capital city. With this makeup, they would definitely attract a lot of girls. Moreover, it would have the best effect of comparing the past to the present. They were practically free advertising models. Thus, Xining started to put on Qi Lingyi's makeup. At this moment, Yu Tianyue seemed to have thought of something after admiring it for a while. She immediately turned her head and pleaded, "Sister Chu, I also want to buy this product. Can I ask you to buy it for me?" Since this product came from Jiangnan and she had never seen the madams and girls in the capital city use it, it proved that this product had never appeared in the capital city before. It was in a girl's nature to love beauty, especially at this age. Now that she saw this product, it was as if she had seen a treasure. Her tone was pitiful, and her expression was yearning. It was as if she wouldn't leave if Chu Qingyan didn't agree to her request. These words were what Qi Lingyi was thinking. She couldn't help but look at Chu Qingyan. Chu Qingyan looked at the two eagerly looking girls in front of her. It was exactly what she wanted. She smiled and said, "You don't have to be anxious. I heard that the boss is planning to open a shop in the capital city that specializes in selling these products. Perhaps you'll hear about it when we come back from our fast." "That's great." Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi both smiled happily. Chu Qingyan smiled and took the two small bags from Xining. "These two bags were used for your makeup just now. It's enough for you to support your fast. When you come back, you can go to the shop and buy new ones." The two girls took the bags and were very grateful. After the two of them left in high spirits, Xining smiled and said, "I believe that it won't be long before many people know about the continuation of the product. These two young ladies should know a lot of people. They'll more or less attract a lot of customers for young Master Hua." Jasper evaluated objectively. No matter how many people we can attract, it's always useful. Moreover, these two girls look quite likable. I've made two good friends. It seems that this fast trip is something to look forward to. Chu Qingyan supported her chin and smiled slightly as she listened to the exclamations coming from the carriage next door. She didn't know what Empress Liang was dawdling about. She waited from early in the morning until almost noon before someone gave the order to set off. A large group of golden carriages drove out of the palace gate. After they were far away, a group of women's carriages followed one after another. Although they had waited for almost an entire morning, some inconceivable things had happened. For example, Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi had only been in Chu Qingyan's carriage for a while before they came down. Although they were still the same people, they were more pleasing to the eye than before. This made many people puzzled. They planned to find an opportunity to inquire about it when they entered the national temple. Perhaps Chu Qingyan didn't expect that because of this sudden idea, it would bring vitality to her and Hua Xiao's business. Chapter 1086. Everyone followed along as the 100 carriages headed towards the national temple in a grandiose procession. At this time, Empress Liang was smashing a cup in the carriage. The clothes just had to be ruined when Ben Gong was about to leave. "How did you do your job?" The palace maids immediately knelt down. One of the head palace maids said fearfully, "We servants also don't know. They were all properly stored in the cabinet. Last night, this servant even took them out to examine them carefully. We didn't find any problems, so we also don't know why the problem occurred this morning." That's right. Your Highness, please don't be angry. We truly didn't find any problems." The palace maids agreed. "You keep saying that you didn't find any problems, but you've delayed Ben Gong's departure until now. Ben Gong doesn't want to listen to your explanations right now. Luo Yun, have someone drag them away and interrogate them carefully. See who exactly did something to them." Empress Liang waved her hand coldly. The mouths of these people were covered and they were silently taken away from the carriage. When only Empress Liang and Luo Yun were left in the carriage, Luo Yun offered tea. "Your Highness, please calm down. Don't get angry and harm your body. This matter is simply an extraordinary humiliation to Ben Gong. Ben Gong has always been punctual, but Ben Gong was delayed for so long because of this last-minute change of clothes. Ben Gong had originally wanted to use this opportunity to win over the hearts of the people. These womenfolk have been waiting outside for so long, so they definitely have resentment in their hearts. The gains simply don't make up for the losses." Empress Liang was so angry that she couldn't even drink the tea. Luo Yun was also a bit angry. "Your Highness, who do you think did this? Aside from those people in the palace who want to see Ben Gong make a fool of, who else could it be?" Empress Liang gave a humph, her expression so dark that it looked like water was about to drip from it. "This servant feels that the person behind the scenes wants to delay your appearance so that these womenfolk will be dissatisfied with you. This will make people think that your fasting this time was just an act. This move is extremely frightening." Luo Yun was startled awake as she thought of this. She hastily said. Empress Liang coldly said, "This empress has already thought of this point. It's nothing more than seeing how His Majesty dotes on this empress so much this time, so she's jealous and hateful. Once we arrive at the Imperial Temple, keep a close eye on them and see if you can make these bitches spit out who bought them. Also, when we're resting halfway, get someone to send some cooling fruits to the women to make up for it." Luo Yun nodded. This servant understands. Empress Liang took the teacup, took a sip, and relaxed her expression. Then, she asked indifferently, "Did anything happen outside the palace just now?" "Nothing much happened. I just heard that many people are hostile towards Miss Chu. It's just that Miss Chu didn't pay attention to them." Luo Yun saw that her master was in a good mood and immediately reported. This Chu Qingyan stole the limelight at the palace banquet, causing these arrogant noblewomen and young misses of the capital to harbor ill feelings towards her. They'll definitely find her unpleasant to the eye. However, this is also good. Let her suffer a bit and temper her temper. This way, it'll be easier for me to control her in the future. Send someone to keep an eye on Chu Qingyan. If there's any movement, report it to me. That's right, remember to tell Jing Girl and Bing Girl to do their best to show off their talents at this time's fasting. This will pave the way for them in the future." Empress Liang lifted her brows as she spoke unhurriedly. "I've already sent a few palace mama to the two young misses. When the time comes, they'll give them more pointers. This servant will also send someone to remind the two young misses." Luo Yun bowed. "Very good." After speaking, Empress Liang slowly closed her eyes to rest. "That's right, Your Highness. Hong Yi sent a message yesterday," Luo Yun said in a small voice. Empress Liang opened her eyes and a light flashed through them. This time, Chu Qingyan isn't in the Prince Fu. Have her act according to the circumstances. Don't miss this great opportunity. This servant will give her a reply right away. Luo Yun understood and quietly withdrew. Empress Liang's lips hooked. This son wanted to fight with his mother? No matter what, he wouldn't be able to win. Sooner or later, he would have to listen to her obediently. While the capital was in full swing preparing for the fasting, in Sichuan town, there was another group of people that were slowly and inconspicuously heading towards the capital. With Xiao Ho's 3 chances, Pang Jijing felt that she had a golden medal that could allow her to escape anytime and anywhere. No one would dare to stop her. Thus, she wasn't in a hurry and quietly waited in the carriage. In any case, she was eating and drinking well. When the time came, she would find a chance to escape. Pang Jijing finally stopped for a few days, allowing the group of envoys who had been on tenterhooks the entire time to sleep peacefully. During a meeting, Envoy Tori had a whole new level of respect for Xiao Ho. He asked him what method he had used to intimidate this clever princess. Even the crown prince couldn't subdue her. Xiao Ho revealed a mysterious smile and didn't give an answer. He only told them that they didn't need to keep a close watch on her for the time being. If anything happened, they didn't need to be surprised. He was fully in charge. With the crown prince's previous instructions, Tori was relieved to entrust the princess to him. That night, Pang Jijing clearly felt that there weren't many people watching her. Thus, she took the opportunity to knock out a maid and changed into her clothes before lying down in the carriage. Then, she pretended to be a maid and got off the carriage. She openly walked on the road illuminated by the firelight. Because she had previously told all the maids to learn how to walk with her sick leg, otherwise she would be unhappy, everyone was used to it and didn't pay much attention to it. Thus, she used the excuse of getting water as an excuse to drag her sick leg and run away. But when she entered the forest, she slowly restrained her dancing and slowed down until she couldn't take another step. Because she saw a person standing in the darkness. When that person slowly walked out of the darkness and revealed his true face, Pang Jijing's eyes twitched. "You, princess, this is the first time." Xiao Ho smiled gently. It was indescribably gentle, but in Pang Jijing's eyes, it was like a demon in the dark night. She couldn't help but shiver. "Then can I still run now?" She suddenly wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. These people's IQ was higher than hers. Sooner or later, she would be eaten up by them. "Please." Xiao Ho politely extended a hand. Pang Jijing looked at him and calmly said, "Give me 2 hours, then come and find me." Xiao Ho nodded without hesitation. Pang Jijing pursed her lips and brushed past him, not stopping at all. She must run as far away as possible, and not have anything to do with these people anymore. Xiao Ho smelled the faint fragrance of flowers in the air. He slowly turned around and watched the limping and slender figure gradually disappear into the bushes. A doubt floated in his heart. What was supporting such a weak woman like her to keep struggling and have the courage to clamor? Perhaps he would have to wait until he caught her before he could solve this mystery. Chapter 1087. Even though she had Xiao Ho's promise, Pang Jijing still did not dare to be careless. She dragged her sick leg and limped as she looked for a place to hide. The injury on her leg should have healed long ago, but because she kept getting injured while she was running away, in addition to the poor medical skills of the ancient times, the medicine that she applied did not work at all. She felt that the injury on her leg seemed to have worsened. So, she could not run very far in 2 hours. So, she decided to hide. Previously, Xiao Ho told her not to choose to hide in a tree, but she insisted on doing so. She used the other party's mentality, thinking that she would not fall in the same place again. She wanted to challenge his mentality. This was called, all is fair in war. So, when she reached a place where she could not see Xiao Ho, she found a large tree that looked like it was full of leaves and climbed up quickly. Then, she swung her legs and panted heavily to rest. She did not die of exhaustion along the way. But she did not dare to be careless. She kept an eye on the time, and very soon, an hour had passed in torment. "It's here." She heard the sound of a large group of people carrying out a carpet search. So, she held her breath and held onto the tree trunk with one hand and covered her nose and mouth with the other. She restrained herself and did not allow herself to make any noise. And at this moment, the group of people had already neared her position. We didn't see anyone. Search in front. The wind carried the sound of leaves rustling and the soldiers' discussion. Seeing that these people were about to pass under her tree, her heart jumped to her throat. But these people did not leave so quickly. Instead, they unexpectedly stopped. Because at this moment, Xiao Ho suddenly stopped everyone and looked towards Pang Jijing's position. Pang Jijing nervously watched their actions through the gaps of the leaves. At this moment, when she saw Xiao Ho's gaze, she immediately shrunk her neck. However, she felt that his action meant that he had already discovered her. Princess, this prince had once advised you not to hide in the tree. Unfortunately, Princess does not listen to good advice. His gentle eyes had a faint smile, but this smile did not reach his eyes. Pang Jijing still wanted to put up a final struggle, but unfortunately, the other party's gaze had already locked onto her. Even the leaves could not hide her figure. In the end, she could only accept her fate. You're good. You were able to discover me like this. I thought the most dangerous place was the safest place, Pang Jijing said, her voice full of regret. Thank you for your praise, Princess, Xiao Ho said without showing any emotion. Pang Jijing pursed her lips and stretched out her arms to the person standing not far away. I can't go down. Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows, indifferent to her words. Ben Wang believes that since Princess can go up, you should be able to come down. I also want to go down myself, but look at my feet. Do I look like I can go down? She lifted her swollen pig trotters and felt very depressed. If it weren't for the inconvenience of her legs, she wouldn't have been caught so easily. Xiao Ho looked at her feet. Even her shoes couldn't hide the bruises, but this didn't change his mind. He waved his hand and signaled for the guards beside him to go forward and help her. He turned around and wanted to leave. Hey, if you don't want to escort a crippled princess to the capital and suffer the scolding of your emperor, then you can just leave me here. When Pang Jijing saw him being so cold-blooded, she couldn't help shouting out. Xiao Ho stopped in his tracks and turned around. The smile in his eyes had completely disappeared. Princess is right. Then it's better if this prince does it himself. After saying that, the guards immediately retreated and made room for him. When Xiao Ho stood under the tree, he looked up and saw a pink-blue figure sitting on the branch. The sunlight shined down and he could only see her stubborn and bright eyes. He narrowed his eyes and his body fell down like a butterfly. Very quickly, a soft body fell into his arms. The fragrance filled his nose and he was suddenly a bit stunned. Pang Jijing still had some lingering fear. Actually, she was a bit afraid of heights, but in order to escape, she had no other choice. Xiao Ho had saved her once and caught her again, so in her heart, Xiao Ho was her enemy, but he was also someone who had enough strength to ensure her safety. When Xiao Ho came back to his senses, he looked at the person patting his chest and coldly said, Princess, this prince doesn't like being threatened by others. Same to you. Pang Jijing replied. Xiao Ho did not hesitate and put her down on the ground. You still have one last chance. Xiao Ho reminded her with a fake smile. Pang Jijing was stunned and then glared at him in displeasure. I don't need you to remind me, I know. After saying that, she turned to leave. But before she could take 2 steps, she suddenly turned back. Xiao Ho raised his brows as he looked at her in confusion. What kind of trick did she want to play? Pang Jijing stretched out her hand and pursed her lips. I'm hungry. Give me some dry food first. If there's a chance to meet, I'll return it to you. Xiao Ho was a bit surprised, but looking at the embarrassed girl in front of him who was red from ears to neck, his heart trembled. Suddenly, he felt his mood turn for the better. He gave a low laugh, like a spring breeze that melted the snow. Pang Jijing heard his laughter and flew into a rage out of humiliation. If you don't want to give, then don't give. Why are you laughing at me? So annoying. She turned to leave, but she heard the person behind her with a smile. Come, prepare some dry food for the princess to escape. At this time, a guard handed over a small package. Pang Jijing did not even open it and directly carried it on her back. She tightened the straps and slightly lowered her head. With her back facing him, she seriously said, Give me a day's time. If you find me again, I won't run anymore. Xiao Ho's gaze focused on that slender back. Although she was petite and weak, her voice made him feel unexpectedly strong. Okay. He was silent for a moment before finally responding. Okay, then let's not meet again. Pang Jijing smiled and turned to give him a brilliant smile. Then, she waved her hand with all her might and finally limped into the flowers. Let's not meet again? After waiting for her to leave, Xiao Ho muttered her words and lightly sneered. You're really confident. Lord, this southern blue princess is full of tricks. Do we need to send people to follow her and capture her when the time limit is up? Chai Xingyu looked in the direction where she disappeared and suggested. Ever since the Prince of Nansong handed her over to Lord, the southern blue envoys no longer cared about the princess. They even seemed to be gloating over Lord's misfortune and wanted to see him suffer. If the princess really ran away, how would he explain it to his superiors? Xiao Ho clasped his hands behind his back. His voice was as gentle as usual. Since this prince dares to make this bet, this prince naturally has his own plans. In a while, bring the southern blue envoys and leave in the direction of the capital. There's no need to wait for us. Chai Xingyu nodded. This subordinate obeys. Chapter 1088. The Fu of the King of England. Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi returned and the two sat down in the study. You are so assured to let your little princess Fei face those demons and monsters? Lin Fengyi put down the teacup, his tone curious and teasing. Xiao Su frowned, his voice faint. She is not a child, she can handle it herself. Is that so? You are holding the book upside down. Lin Fengyi kindly reminded. Xiao Su stilled and looked down at the book in his hand. His eyes flashed and he casually put it on the table. Lin Fengyi couldn't help but laugh. It seems that the famous god of war is not always calm. Once it has to do with your little Princess Fei, you are not so rational. Xiao Su glanced coolly at him. You talk a lot today. You can't blame me. It is rare to see you act strangely. Of course, I have to appreciate it. Otherwise, there won't be another opportunity like this. Lin Fengyi waved the fan in his hand and said with a smile. Xiao Su didn't plan to pay attention to him. But the other party didn't seem to care about what he was thinking at the moment. His gloating was gone, and he suddenly said seriously, Actually, you don't have to focus so much on the defense drill this time. Your mother proposed this fast because she wants you to take the initiative to apply to His Majesty for the position of protector. I believe that as long as you ask, His Majesty won't refuse. This way, you can accompany your little Princess Fei and see her yearning. I don't want to achieve Muhu's goal. This way, her ambition will grow. She will think that I am compromising with her or agreeing with her actions. If she does something in the future, I am afraid that I will not be able to stop her. Xiao Su looked up and said in a serious tone, Also, I believe in Ayan. She is not a flower grown in a greenhouse and can withstand storms. Lin Fengyi was slightly surprised. You want to use this opportunity to let her comprehend or grow. He felt that the things that Chu Qingyan had experienced in the past few years were difficult for most people of the same age. In his view, she was already outstanding and powerful enough. Was his good friend still not satisfied? Xiao Su smiled faintly. Yan is very smart, but she has been by my side for so many years. She has only faced those open and covert fights, but she is still not good enough when it comes to the subtle fights between women. This time, I hope that she can grow up so that she can truly take charge of things on her own. Lin Fengyi didn't think that he was considering this and couldn't help but ask, Then you are willing? So what if I am unwilling? Only when I'm not by her side will she forget her laziness. Only when she has no one to rely on will she face it seriously. Xiao Su frowned. Although in the eyes of outsiders, the little fellow was brave and resourceful, as long as he was around, she would have a heart of dependence, unable to stimulate her inner potential. Although she felt that she was working very hard, in fact, she had not used all her strength. This time, he wanted to see if this trip could really stimulate her potential. Xiao ran, sometimes I can't help but admire you. At a time like this, You can still analyze things so rationally and use such a method to push the people you care about to face. Lin Fengyi was slightly surprised and couldn't help but sigh. Xiao Su smiled bitterly. Actually, he was very reluctant, but he had to do this. Fengyi, I am not a heartless person. I will not force Ian to do anything. It is just because of our current situation. If we are not strong enough, it is easy for others to plot against us, get hurt, suffer, or even lose our lives. Sometimes, I would rather be like you, an ordinary person. Lin Fengyi shook his head and laughed. Like me, an orphan? Actually, sometimes I wish I was you. Xiao Su laughed self-deprecatingly. Lin Fengyi's expression slowly changed. He sighed softly. Xiao Su, even if you are an ordinary person, you cannot hide the light on your body. Some people are destined to be extraordinary. This is fate. Your consolation is quite pleasing to the ear. Xiao Su smiled faintly. Lin Fengyi's mouth twitched, indicating that he was unwilling to say anything more to him. Chu Qingyan and the others walked out of the city gate and continued forward. They rested at the foot of the mountain and then went up the mountain path. This Hugua temple was built on top of a mountain 30 li outside of the city. The scenery there was pleasant, and the vegetation was flourishing. Thus, Chu Qingyan sat in the carriage and lifted the curtain to admire the scenery. Because the sun was very bright, the other carriages did not have as many ice cubes as Chu Qingyan's carriage. Thus, most of them opened the curtains for ventilation. However, the air was hot and everyone had no choice but to stay cooped up in the carriage. His Highness is still the most considerate. He had people prepare everything. Right now, we are here to play. Xining sighed as she fanned herself. There's no need to mention how good His Highness is to master. Bai Yu also spoke for the first time. Chu Qingyan was amused. You two little brats have been bribed. Master, come, have a bowl of iced plum soup. Xining obediently presented the bowl. Chu Qingyan received it and drank a mouthful of it happily. Big Ice Cube was afraid that she would not be well taken care of on the road, so he had the residents prepare everything. From the ice cubes in the carriage to the desserts and soup. She had to admit that Big Ice Cube was very meticulous. How much longer until we reach? Chu Qingyan asked casually. According to the journey, we are already halfway up the mountain. If there are no accidents, we will reach the temple in another 2 hours. Jasper calculated and replied. Right at this moment, a familiar voice sounded. Qingyan, you are inside, right? I am Xiao Ran. The youth's clear voice could be heard clearly. Chu Qingyan lifted the curtain and saw the jade-faced youth on the horse. It's you. Aren't you in charge of security? Why do you have time to come here? There were too many things on the road and I didn't have time to talk to you. I just happened to be patrolling your position, so I came to greet you. Xiao Ran wiped the sweat on his face. He looked a little unnatural as he spoke and felt that he looked quite disheveled. Chu Qingyan nodded. Seeing that his fair face was slightly red from the sun, she said, I know you are busy, so you don't have to delay with me. Then she blinked. All right, don't be in a hurry to leave. I have soup here. Drink a bowl to cool down before you leave. With that, she asked Xining to ladle a bowl for him. Xiao Ran gave a silly smile and took it without hesitation. He raised his head and drank it. He felt that it tasted better than anything he had drunk before. His heart was filled with sweetness. Then he left with a reluctant look. Chu Qingyan saw that he drank in such a hurry and felt that he was really a child. She shook her head and retracted her gaze. Just as she was about to put down the curtain, she felt that someone was looking at her. She immediately turned to look, but when she looked, she could no longer see anyone. She muttered to herself and finally put down the curtain. Yao Ruing lifted the curtain again and looked in Chu Qingyan's direction. Her lips slowly curved. Chapter 1089. The melons and fruits that the Empress sent over in the hands of that Chu Qingyan are all crooked melons and dates. I don't know who did something to them, but they are hard to swallow. Meng Shishu's maid, Xinger, said gloatingly in her ear. Meng Shishu was eating a piece of melon. Hearing this, she glanced at the plate in front of her and gave a contemptuous smile. It seems that the Empress does not like this daughter-in-law that much. That's right. I heard that it's because Chu Qingyan's family background is not prominent and cannot be of any help to His Royal Highness. Therefore, the Empress does not like this Chu Qingyan who does not have a high background. Xinger flapped her fan and eagerly relayed the news she had heard. Meng Shishu thought of something after hearing this. She immediately sat up straight and put down the melon in her hand. Her eyes were shining. You mean, even though there is an engagement, but Chu Qingyan may not be able to enter the King of England's palace? As long as she is not married to His Royal Highness? Xinger nodded. Mistress is right. Therefore, you do not need to worry too much. Whether or not Chu Qingyan can become the consort of the King of England is still unknown. Meng Shishu tapped her finger on the little table and thought, then if that's the case, I should show my face more in front of the Empress. Compared to Chu Qingyan, my status is more presentable. Even Mother said that I should take this opportunity to get closer to the Empress. No matter if it is for myself or Father, it will be beneficial. Thinking of this, she clapped her hands and looked at the maid in front of her with bright eyes. Xingna, I'll give you a task. When you enter the temple this time, no matter what, you have to find out what the Empress likes and dislikes. Build a good relationship with the maids beside the Empress. If you need money, you don't need to worry about it. Xingna immediately agreed. I will definitely not disappoint you. Only then did Meng Shishu feel at ease to enjoy the cold fruits. In the carriage of the Minister of Right's family, Jing Mingzhu was sitting in the same carriage as her mother. At this moment, she was complaining angrily, Mother, Chu Qingyan is already set to be the consort of the King of England. Why did she still seduce the fourth prince? Just now, she heard the servant say that Xiao Ran deliberately rode his horse to the front of Chu Qingyan's carriage to talk. The way they talked was very intimate. Suddenly, she was full of anger. That Chu Qingyan, as your mother, looks like a vixen at first glance. Madame Jing raised her eyebrows and sneered. Jing Mingzhu's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. Then do you think it's true that Chu Qingyan and His Highness are really, as an unmarried girl? She still didn't dare to say it out loud. Madame Jing knew what she wanted to say. Although Chu Qingyan hasn't seen much of the world, she isn't stupid. She was young before and didn't understand the struggles of the court. Now that the fourth prince is favored by the emperor and the King of England has been titled as the Lord, she can see that the emperor favors the fourth prince more. So, she has a devious idea and wants to rely on both sides. When the time comes, it will be easier for her to choose. Mother, do you think His Highness will really like this vixen? Jing Mingzhu suddenly became worried. Her fingers twisted her handkerchief and her heart was very nervous. Don't worry. Even if His Highness is interested in Chu Qingyan, consort you won't allow it. Zhu? Don't forget that Madame Fu and your mother have been close friends for many years. What she says is probably what consort you wants. Besides, she was raised outside. How can she be as beautiful and smart as our Mingzhu? As long as you show your face in front of His Highness more often, I guarantee that he will have a deep impression of you. When the time comes, when His Majesty has the idea of choosing a consort for His Highness, consort you will mention it. Then, won't your marriage be set in stone? Madame Jing patted her daughter's hand. The wrinkles on her face were almost like chrysanthemums. With her mother's words, Jing Mingzhu was both shy and confident. Mother, what are you talking about? Your daughter doesn't understand a single word. Knowing that her daughter had grown up and knew how to be shy, Madame Jing smiled until her eyes almost narrowed into slits. Mother won't say any more. Jing Mingzhu was bashful, but she also had a plan in her heart. Even if Chu Qingyan's identity was there and she didn't have the chance to marry Xiao Ran, she wouldn't let her have an easy time. Since she could remember, she had never lost to anyone. This Chu Qingyan was her stumbling block. She had to find a chance to kill her spirit. Chu Qingyan sat in the carriage and chatted with her two beautiful maids. Her days were free and leisurely. She didn't know how many people in this group were jealous of her and how much influence they would have on her in the near future. She also didn't know what surprises or shocks were waiting for her in the temple. In fact, with her intuition as a woman, she could vaguely feel that this road of fasting wouldn't be smooth. But in her view, she didn't like to worry about the unknown. She liked to have joy today and worry tomorrow. The carriage moved slowly on the mountain road, but they could already see the corner of the temple at the top of the mountain. In the mountain forest, the trees were dense and the environment was quiet and secluded. Everyone seemed to have entered a cool and refreshing world from the hot weather. All the pores on their bodies opened up comfortably. Everyone opened the curtains one after another and faced the magnificent temple not far away. They couldn't help but reveal joyful smiles. They finally reached their destination. Hugua Temple had already received the news and had come out early to greet them. Empress Liang got off the carriage. The other concubines and womenfolk also came out. Old Na Yuan Kong greets the Empress. An old man wearing a kasaya bowed to Empress Liang with a benevolent expression. Empress Liang returned the greeting. Great Master need not be so courteous. This Empress came here as a woman of faith to pray for the blessings of the country and pray for rain for the common people. Thus, Great Master can treat us as ordinary believers. Amitabha, Empress is considerate. Great Master Yuan Kong put his hands together to return the greeting. Empress Liang nodded with a slight smile. At this time, Great Master Yuan Kong said to everyone, "Female benefactors, Old Na has already prepared vegetarian dishes in the side rooms for everyone. Please come in." "Many thanks, Great Master." Everyone bowed. Chu Qingyan followed behind the crowd and looked around curiously. At this moment, she saw that Xiao Ran had already dismounted and was walking towards the young man who had arrived at the temple earlier to make arrangements. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't help but take a few more glances. She stared at the young man whose back was facing her, and she suddenly had a strange feeling in her heart. But at this time, everyone slowly surged into the temple under the guidance of the monks on both sides. She had to look away and follow the crowd. When everyone had entered the temple, the person who had been talking to Xiao Ran slowly turned around and looked in the direction that Chu Qingyan had left. His phoenix eyes rose and he gave an enigmatic smile. Chapter 1090. The first thing they did after entering the temple was to offer incense. Empress Liang took the incense from Yuan Kong and knelt down devoutly. The other women took the incense prepared by the monks and knelt down along with Empress Liang. Because Chu Qingyan was the future consort of the King of England, she stood closer to the front. When she bent down and looked up, she saw the golden body of Buddha sitting on the lotus platform. Those emotionless eyes seemed to be looking at her. She originally followed the others to offer incense casually, but now she couldn't help but straighten her back. With respect in her eyes, she sincerely inserted the incense into the incense burner. Although she had met Su Jian, who wanted to lead her into Buddhism not long after she arrived in the capital, she had stubbornly refused and said some words to refute him. But in her heart, she still respected Buddhism very much. After transmigrating here, even if she didn't believe in Buddhism, gods, ghosts, or demons before, she now held a reverence for reincarnation. When they returned to their original position, Chu Qingyan suddenly remembered that Su Jian seemed to be the senior monk of Hugua Temple. When she saw him 4 years ago, he was in Jiang Kingdom. Now that so many years had passed, she didn't know if he had returned from his travels. If he had already returned, she really wanted to pay him a visit and personally thank him again for what happened that year. After offering incense, the abbot saw that everyone looked tired, so he asked the monks to lead them to a side room in the backyard. "Master, look." Chu Qingyan was walking forward with the monk who led the way when her sleeve was suddenly tugged. She turned her head and saw Xining giving her a look. She couldn't help but follow her line of sight and saw the two sisters, Liang Danjing and Liang Danbing, standing not far behind her. She didn't expect them to also come. But thinking about it, this was organized by Empress Liang, so she definitely wouldn't forget her family. The Liang sisters also saw her. Liang Danjing smiled and nodded, but Liang Danbing was a proud and arrogant person. She did not maintain a peaceful appearance like her sister. She pulled her lower lip and gave a provocative look. She didn't want to bother with them. Just as she was about to withdraw her gaze, she saw Xining winking at her. She raised her eyebrows and looked over again. This time, she saw Meng Shishu, Jing Mingzhu, and Yao Ring, who had a strange smile on her face. Chu Qingyan suddenly felt a headache coming on. It couldn't be, right? This wave of little demons had all come? Xining and Jasper looked at her sympathetically. Master, it seems that we are going to face a lot of demons and ghosts this time. Chu Qingyan heaved a deep sigh. I accept it. I'll just treat it as subduing demons to maintain the peace of the world. Xining was amused, and Jasper couldn't help but curve her lips. When she entered the rear courtyard, Chu Qingyan inadvertently glanced over and saw the young man from before at the entrance of the temple. Only this time, his side was facing her. He had a very ordinary appearance, but the aura he exuded was not ordinary. She felt that it was a bit strange. But after turning a corner, she couldn't see him anymore. She temporarily put this strange feeling in her heart and didn't think about it anymore. The young man turned around and looked in the direction Chu Qingyan left. At this time, Xiao Ran walked over. When he saw the direction the young man was looking, he couldn't help but ask curiously, "You also know Qingyan?" "I don't know her." The young man smiled and shook his head. "I guess that you didn't know her either. She just returned to the capital not long ago, so you probably haven't seen her before." Xiao Ran thought he understood, but when it came to Chu Qingyan, he had a lot to say. "Doesn't she look very cute?" The young man's gaze was fixed on Xiao Ran, and then he smiled. "She's young, so she's quite delicate." Xiao Ran felt that the word delicate had nothing to do with Qingyan. In his opinion, Qingyan was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen in his life. But it wasn't appropriate to discuss this with him. He gave a low cough and talked about the guards. The young man also recovered his serious expression and answered all the questions. The sky gradually darkened, and the people far away in the mountain forest were trying hard to find the best place to hide. What to do? This is already the last chance? Where should I hide? Pang Jijing carried a small cloth bag and washed her face with the river water as she muttered. Time was constantly passing, and she didn't have much time left. But she had overestimated her own ability. With her incomplete body, she wouldn't be able to run far. She angrily picked up a stone and threw it at the river. She was so angry that she was about to go crazy. And at this time, she looked at the stone that fell into the water with a splash, and suddenly had an idea. It's really a case of searching high and low only to find it without any effort. She stood up, put her hands on her hips and laughed to the sky. "This time, let's see how you'll find me." "Lord, follow the footprints until here, there's no more nearby." The subordinate quickly came back to report. Xiao Ho glanced around, expand the area and continue to search. According to her speed, she wouldn't have run far. The subordinate responded and immediately scattered. "Lord, there's a river in front. Do you want to go there and wash your face?" The subordinate following him asked. After walking for a day, he was a little sweaty. Xiao Ho nodded. Strolling to the river, Xiao Ho squatted down and scooped some water to wash his face. He felt a lot more refreshed. He stood up, and with his hands behind his back, he waited for the news from his subordinates. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, the people who were searching came back. "Lord, we've searched this place, but we still haven't found any trace of the princess." Xiao Ho frowned. Logically speaking, she should be around here. It's impossible for her to disappear into thin air. How could they not find her? He looked at the sky and pondered for a moment. His hand reached into his sleeve and was about to take out the compass that Pang Huang left behind. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he saw a bamboo pipe undulating on the river. The corner of his mouth rose slightly and he retracted his hand. "There's no need to search." Xiao Ho's words left everyone scratching their heads in confusion. At this moment, Xiao Ho smiled and returned to the shore. With a wave of his long arm, a long bamboo pipe appeared in his fingers. He played with it in the palm of his hand and waited quietly. After a while, the calm river surface suddenly had a few more bubbles. Not long after, there was a gullah-gullah sound. Splash! There was a splash of water and a person stood up from the water. The guards on the shore pulled out their long swords and pointed at the water surface. Cough cough, Pang Zhijing wiped the water on her face. She was in a sorry state and desperately gasped for breath. You sinister, bad guy. You actually took away my bamboo pipe. Xiao Ho raised his hand to get the guards to keep their weapons. He looked at her calmly. If I didn't use this move, how would I be able to find the princess? But I have to say that the princess' hiding place this time is indeed a little innovative. Her bamboo pipe was taken away from the river surface by him. She drank a stomach full of water and was even ridiculed by him. She was in a sorry state. If she could tolerate it, what more could she tolerate? Taking advantage of his unpreparedness, she bent down and splashed water on him. Xiao Ho didn't expect her to be so shameless. In a moment of carelessness, his clothes were drenched by her. Looking at his sleeves, he couldn't help but frown. But the person in the river was still laughing happily. This feeling of being attacked so openly was a little unfamiliar to him. Chapter 1091. Pang Zhijing's laughter was so blatant and unbridled that she did not notice the person standing on the shore, whose face was becoming more and more gloomy. Even those guards could feel their lord's gloomy mood. They couldn't help but want to retreat, but in the end, they stood still and lowered their heads even more to prevent themselves from being implicated. Princess, please take care of yourself. After the laughter died down, Pang Zhijing finally reacted. Her palms slowly propped up her knees as the figure in front of her slowly entered her field of vision. She suddenly felt that something was wrong. At this time, she happened to meet Xiao Ho's expressionless face, without that gentle jade-like smile. His dark green cloak fluttered in the dark and his threatening figure made this person look even more gloomy like a ghost. She subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. That I was just joking. Are you all right? She was so nervous that she stuttered. Although she despised her own cowardice, a wise man submits to circumstances. This moment of weakness was for the sake of a better future. She comforted herself like this. Xiao Ho indifferently looked at her. Princess is in such a good mood, but this king hates jokes the most. This voice was so cold that it could freeze people to death. Pang Zhijing shrunk her neck back and rubbed her arms with her hands. She gave a flattering smile. All right. I won't joke with you in the future. Don't lower yourself to my level. Xiao Ho's expression did not soften because of her words, but when he stared at her, his eyes suddenly became strange. Pang Zhijing did not notice it at first, but later on, she felt that something was wrong and followed his gaze to look at herself. Summer clothes were thin and with the addition of the water, they stuck to her body, revealing her exquisite curves. She gave a scream and her entire body was submerged in the water, only revealing her head. Xiao Ho's ears were ringing from her earth-shattering scream, but he still gave a low cough and looked away. She was really too stupid to not notice it. Luckily, due to Xiao Ho's intimidation, those guards did not raise their heads. Pang Zhijing's heart was slightly comforted. However, she was very sure that Xiao Ho had seen her naked. Just as she was glaring angrily at Xiao Ho, she suddenly heard him say, "The sky is getting dark. If Princess wishes to continue staying in the water, then this prince will not accompany you." After saying that, Xiao Ho turned around without hesitation. Hey, leaving just like that? That's too ungentlemanly. Seeing that he had really left, leaving only the guards to guard her, Pang Zhijing immediately shouted. She couldn't let him leave just like that. Otherwise, how could she go ashore when she was drenched? Xiao Ho turned to look at her and raised his eyebrows. Gentlemanly? That's an interesting term. Just when she thought he was going to leave without mercy, she saw him put his hand on the belt and untied the cloak. Holding it in his hand, he bent down and put it on the ground. Then he got up and strode into the deep forest where the flames were burning. He had already taken a few steps when she realized that he had left for her. Blinking her eyes, she scrambled to the shore and pulled up her cloak to cover herself. She had to admit that although he looked sickly thin, he was very tall. The cloak was folded a few times on the ground, but it still carried his body temperature. It was very warm and there was even a faint herbal fragrance. She wrapped the cloak tightly around herself and ran toward Xiao Ho without thinking. Wait a minute. I want to talk to you. Xiao Ho felt that his patience had been worn down by her. He stopped and wanted to see what other tricks she had up her sleeves. After a while, he saw her stumbling towards him and his tightly knitted brows suddenly relaxed. What does Princess want to talk about? The wind blew past and blew away the cold aura around him, returning him to the elegant and noble lord. Pang Jijing panted lightly. After she exhaled the foul air in her body, she straightened up and looked at him with bright eyes. She didn't care what kind of gaze he was using to look at her as she spoke to him resolutely. Xiao Ho, I want to make a deal with you. Xiao Ho was a little surprised and his voice carried a taunting smile. Princess, don't forget that you have already used up your 3 chances. You don't have the qualifications to bargain with this king. Pang Jijing's face turned slightly hot. This was the first time someone had called her shameless, but for freedom and to not be controlled by others, she could still afford to lose this bit of face. Xiao Ho saw that she was filled with shame and anger, but she quickly gathered her courage. Looking at him with sparkling eyes, he was slightly stunned. Of course I know that I no longer have a chance to escape and I have also proven your intelligence. As long as you don't let me go, I will not be able to escape from your hands, so why should I make a final struggle? She said this with a sigh. She had used her blood and tears to prove this fact. Although she was gritting her teeth, she had no choice but to admit defeat. Xiao Ho expressed his agreement and waited for her to continue. After Pang Jijing sighed in self-abasement, she said with a firm gaze, Xiao Ho, since you need a princess like me, then I think I have the qualifications to make a deal with you. After entering your Sichuan's capital, I will do my best to help you with whatever you need me to do. However, as long as you achieve what you want, you will set me free and not make things difficult for me. What do you think of this deal? Xiao Ho looked at her with an inquisitive gaze. Wasn't this a deal that you made with your brother, the crown prince? Don't you think it's unnecessary to cooperate with this king? Pang Jijing gave a self-deprecating laugh. Do you think I will believe a person who pushes my little sister into a pit of fire? Then why do you believe this king? Although this king will not personally push you into a pit like your brother, I am still an accomplice. Xiao Ho was a little confused. Why do I believe him? She had never thought of this question before. Xiao Ho's question had stunned her. Was it because although he was an accomplice, he did not actually harm her? Although he forced her step by step, he was willing to leave the cloak to her? Although he was still unwilling to let her go, he did not make things difficult for her in other aspects? She couldn't help but tightly grasp the cloak as she questioned herself. These seemed like answers, but they also seemed like questions that she couldn't understand. She simply gave up thinking and looked up with puffed cheeks as she said, Maybe it's because your cloak has the aura of my old friend, so I feel that you are a trustworthy person. Xiao Ho, who had only paid attention to her to pass the time, heard her answer. His gaze focused and he looked directly at her. He was a little surprised, a little amazed, and an indescribable feeling grew in his heart. Trustworthy? This really was an unfamiliar word. After she finished speaking, she didn't see any reaction from him. Pang Jijing walked 2 steps towards him and stood in front of him. She asked angrily, I already told you the reason, so why are you ignoring me? Xiao Ho came back to his senses and looked at the angry girl in front of him. He slowly said, Why are you so sure that this king will cooperate with you? Chapter 1092. Pang Jijing's face was filled with anticipation, but a bucket of cold water was poured over her head. She felt her entire heart turn cold. She no longer cared about being reserved as she reached out to grab his arm. She flew into a rage. How can you say that? Could it be that after being friends for so many days, it's not enough for you to show some compassion to me? She was standing too close and when she made her move, he could not react in time. At this moment, his hand was being held by her hot fingers and his skin was a bit hot. He narrowed his eyes and wanted to pull his hand back, but she was holding it too tightly. He wanted to use force, but he was afraid of revealing his secret of martial arts, so he couldn't help knitting his brows. Princess, Please understand one thing. This king is helping you out of kindness, not helping is my duty. This is not a reason for you to threaten me. Xiao Ho looked at her indifferently. Although the corners of his lips were curled, the smile did not reach his eyes. This sentence woke her up. That's right, he wasn't as simple and crude to her as Pang Huang. It was only because there was no conflict of interest between them. Whether he helped or not, it was all in his hands and she couldn't say anything. She slowly released her fingers and a dejected expression appeared on her face. Xiao Ho's words made her speechless and unable to explain herself. Xiao Ho took a step back and no longer looked at her as he turned to leave. At this time, Pang Jijing's head drooped down dejectedly as she watched the shadow on the ground slowly leave her line of sight. Her heart slowly tightened. Was she going to accept her fate like this? With Pang Huang's personality, once he completed his goal, would he still let her live in this world? She still hadn't found a way to go back, so she couldn't die like this. When the wind blew, the bells on her feet made a jingling sound. It was clear and pleasant to the ears, but most beautiful things had thorns. So it became her restriction. Restriction? An idea flashed through her mind. Wait! Xiao Ho stopped in his tracks. He didn't know what she wanted to do, but he still slowly turned around. Does Princess have any other advice? His gaze was as gentle as water, but in her eyes, it was like a pool of emotionless, stagnant water. He indifferently watched her struggle and wasn't willing to lend a helping hand. She steadied her mind and walked in front of him again. Her expression was much calmer than before. Didn't you just ask me why I should cooperate with you? All right, I'll tell you now. Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows. She took a deep breath and looked at him with wide eyes. You know martial arts. You're not sick. As soon as she finished speaking, her neck was suddenly grabbed by a hand. Before she could feel the pain, she quickly retreated and her back hit a tree trunk. She felt that her internal organs were about to be displaced, but that wasn't the scariest thing. It was that her neck was about to be broken by him. She couldn't breathe. She wanted to scream for help, but there was no one else here other than him. Xiao Ho, are you planning to silence me? But don't forget, I am a princess. When the time comes to investigate, you won't be able to escape responsibility. She spat out these words with difficulty as her entire face turned red. Every time she said a word, her mind would go blank. I hate threats the most. This king remembers reminding you. Xiao Ho's smile was the same as before, but his eyes were as cold as ice. Alright, just kill me. I don't like this place anyway. I've already died once, so I'm not afraid of dying again. She closed her eyes, looking like she was ready to die. Xiao Ho's eyes fell onto this beautiful face that was as pale as paper. He was completely disheartened, as if he had already given up on struggling. Memories of his youth suddenly flashed through his mind and he was stunned. His fingers had already let go at an unknown time and he had already slid down from the tree trunk to sit on the ground, desperately coughing. Xiao Ho, if you don't kill me this time, you can't go back on your word and make a move against me. Pang Jijing never thought that he would let her go. The feeling of having a new lease on life filled her heart. She could still feel her wildly beating heart that did not have any rhythm, as if it was reminding her that she had just returned from the gates of hell. Xiao Ho took back his hand and placed it behind his back. He looked down at her in a condescending manner. You really think you can threaten this king? She took a deep breath and raised her head. Her eyes stared right at him. Her voice was hoarse and unpleasant to hear, but there was a trace of cunning in it. Although I don't know much about your Sichuan, but in the past few days, I have still inquired about you. You have been weak and sickly since you were young, without the strength to even truss up a chicken. Many people doubt if you can live for long. Because of this, you have been using precious medicines to keep your life, giving people the illusion that you don't have long to live and that you don't have any strength left. In reality, you are using this kind of method to confuse people, making those opponents ignore your existence, so you can secretly develop your own power. Right now, you are waiting for an opportunity. When the time comes, you will be like a hibernating black panther, suddenly jumping out to kill or reap the benefits. Am I right to say this? Although she made a solemn vow, no one knew that her palms were sweaty and her body was trembling under the cloak. If it wasn't for the fact that she was sitting with her back against the tree, she probably wouldn't have been able to support herself. As for Xiao Ho, when she began to speak, his smile slowly disappeared. His eyes narrowed bit by bit, as if this was the first time he saw the person in front of him. Could it be that she had been pretending in the past? His heart could not help but be filled with doubts. "Tell me, how did you know?" His voice was filled with danger. What a joke! How could she tell him that she had learned this from novels? The weak and sickly lord, who looked like he did not have any killing power, was actually the most sinister person. "Of course it's because I'm smart and saw through it myself." "How about it, such a smart partner? Do you still want to push it away? If you pass this village, there won't be another shop like this. If you're not willing, then forget it." She arrogantly raised her head, but it was a pity that her face was pale and the bruises on her neck greatly reduced her expression. Xiao Ho was silent for a moment before finally looking at her with a burning gaze. "Since the princess has invited me with such great hospitality, then this king has no reason to reject." "All right." She suppressed the wild joy in her heart and pretended to be calm as she raised her hand. "Then let's strike our palms to form an alliance. If one side violates the agreement, then they will leave this world and go to where they should go. No matter if it's another world or heaven or hell, in short, it will be like this." This agreement sounded very strange, but Xiao Ho did not mind. He reached out his hand and lightly struck her. "That's great." After Pang Zhijing said this, her consciousness finally blurred. Xiao Ho looked at the person in his arms. Her face was flushed red and her body was burning hot. It was clear that she had already lost consciousness. He frowned, wondering if he should throw her here for the guards to deal with, but in the end, when he thought of her world-weary expression under his palm, he gave a self-deprecating sigh and used his hands to pick her up. Just treat it as the alliance being formed, giving her the first advantage. Chapter 1093. In the night, Pang Huang sat on a cushion. Beside him was Pang Zhijing, who was clinging on to him like an octopus. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull her away. Because of a moment of softness, he carried her back. In the end, it proved to be a problem for him. It was obvious that she had caught a cold and had a fever. She was still wearing wet clothes. However, there were no women in his entourage, so he couldn't help her change her clothes. In the end, he could only use his inner energy to dry her clothes. "Master, the Southern Heavens envoy group has already arrived at the next town. When do we set off?" the subordinate asked. Xiao Ho ordered, "Find a carriage. We'll set off at dawn." "Yes, master." The bonfire burned quietly. There were guards patrolling all around. Xiao Ho picked up the water bag and was about to open it when he suddenly heard a low murmur. "I want to go home. Dad, Mom, I miss you so much." It came from beside him. He lowered his head and saw Pang Zhijing, who was sleeping very uncomfortably. She was saying something in a hoarse voice. His gaze fell on the bruises on her neck. Finally, he looked away. "Invite Mr. Li over," Xiao Ho said in a low voice. Soon, a man in his 30s or 40s came over with a medicine box. He immediately sized him up. "Lord, are you feeling unwell?" "It's not this prince, it's her," Xiao Ho said warmly. Mr. Li was surprised when he saw the woman leaning so close to his lord. After so many years, this was the first time he saw a woman by his lord's side. He didn't dare to delay. He immediately put down the medicine box and crouched down to take her pulse. "Don't touch me. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to be with a demon." Pang Zhijing unconsciously pushed Mr. Li's hand away and rubbed her whole body against Xiao Ho's side. Xiao Ho's eyes twitched. "Demon?" He didn't hesitate to pull her wrist out and handed it to Mr. Li. Mr. Li, who had been unable to touch Pang Zhijing all this time, looked at his lord in surprise. Then he took Pang Zhijing's pulse, not daring to think too much. After a while, Mr. Li withdrew his hand and stroked his beard with a strange expression. "Lord, the princess's body is weak. Plus, she's been soaking in the water for too long and has caught a cold. She's a little feverish now, But that's not important. As long as she drinks my decoction later and sweats a little, her illness will be mostly cured. It's just that, go on. This was within his expectations, but Mr. Li's words made him focus. Mr. Li muttered to himself for a while before sighing, "This southern blue princess is suffering from a slow-acting poison. In less than a year, the poison will act up." Xiao Ho was slightly stunned. What poison? There's a tyrannical poison in the southern blue continent called life-severing. Mr. Li stroked his beard and shook his head. It's not that there's no way to detoxify this poison. It's just that the method is very complicated, and I don't have that ability. How long has this poison been in her body? It should be 2 months. Xiao Ho pondered for a moment. It just so happened that she was poisoned when she left the southern blue continent for Sichuan. The poison had been dormant for a year. At that time, her mission in Sichuan would have been completed. He suddenly understood why she said she didn't trust Pang Huang. Perhaps she didn't know that Pang Huang had poisoned her, but she was already subconsciously wary of Pang Huang. Through this matter, he also indirectly understood Pang Huang's character. In order to achieve his goals, he would do anything and he would keep his promises. As expected, he was a qualified partner. There's one more thing. Mr. Li's words attracted Xiao Ho's attention. The princess's leg injury wasn't that serious in the beginning. Even if she was injured a few more times, it wouldn't affect her recovery. However, her leg injury has dragged on for so long because of an external cause. What external cause? Xiao Ho asked. Someone tampered with the princess's medicine. Or rather, the princess's medicine was skimped on. Out of 10, the medicine's efficacy was only 30%. It delayed the wound's recovery. Based on the dosage of the medicine, it would probably take her until the capital to fully recover. Mr. Li's words caused Xiao Ho to involuntarily look at Pang Zhijing. It was likely that Pang Huang had tampered with the medicine to prevent her from escaping. At this time, Mr. Li saw that he had sunk into deep thought and didn't dare disturb him. He went to brew the medicine. After the medicine was brewed, Mr. Li helped Pang Zhijing drink it and then left. Hot, so hot. The medicine began to take effect. Pang Zhijing couldn't help but tug at the cloak on her body. In the end, she flung it to the side. Her entire body was like a loach. When Xiao Ho wasn't paying attention, she burrowed into his arms. Then, she found a comfortable position in his arms and fell asleep. When Xiao Ho lowered his head, she was already sleeping soundly in his arms. Her cheeks were pink from the effects of the medicine. In this kind of dark night, it was like a piece of fruit that gave off a sweet smell. Just now, he didn't know who it was that said to stay away from a demon like him. In the end, she still ran in herself. He curled his lips and shook his head. He wanted to reach out and push her away, but at this time, he suddenly felt his body lose strength. The blood in his body flowed slower. He couldn't help but frown and lean against the tree trunk. He slowly adjusted his breathing. He couldn't care about the person in his arms. After a moment, he opened his eyes again. The clothes on his back were already soaked, but his breathing had stabilized. After so many years, his body had been close to normal. He didn't get sick anymore. But today, it suddenly acted up. Was it because of emotional fluctuations? He couldn't help but lower his head and look at the person in his arms. Because of her? Although Pang Zhijing's life wasn't worth worrying about, looking at this sleeping innocent girl, her experiences overlapped with his own, evoking memories of his youth. He leaned against the tree trunk and looked at the night sky above his head. Suddenly, the corners of his lips curled up. Fate played tricks on him. It turned out that he and her were only chess pieces in the hands of the heavens. But he didn't believe that he would be so useless for the rest of his life. No one could control his future. Pang Zhijing, who was in a deep sleep, probably didn't know that the reason why she was able to work with Xiao Ho so smoothly and receive his leniency when she was sick was because he saw his own shadow in her. He was the one who was wronged, lonely and proud, licking his wounds alone. In the Hugua temple, everything was quiet. Chu Qingyan was served by the maids. After she finished washing up, she prepared to read a book before going to bed to rest. This temple is really different from normal people's homes. It is clean and tidy without any excess. The vegetarian food is also unique, but it is a bit plain. Xining said as she wiped the table. Chu Qingyan said with a smile, "It seems that you are very satisfied with the temple. How about I tell the masters and see if they still need a disciple and send you over?" Xining immediately shouted, "Master, please spare this servant. This servant wants to be with you forever." The people in the room couldn't help laughing. Chu Qingyan shook her head and laughed. From the corner of her eyes, she saw the guards standing not far away from the window and suddenly thought of something. "I think I might have to go out tonight." Her gaze was slightly heavy and her tone was very calm. Chapter 1094. Mistress, what is it that needs to be done at night? Can't we do it tomorrow during the day? Seeing her mistress change into a servant's uniform, Xining asked in confusion. After finishing her preparations, Chu Qingyan lightly patted Xining's head and smiled. "Of course it's something that can't be seen in public. Otherwise, why would your mistress sacrifice her sleep time to go out? Then why don't you bring this servant along?" Xining blinked her eyes, flashing with a light that begged to be taken away. "Silly girl, we're not going out to play. I'm just going to verify something." After saying this, she pinched her little face and told her to obediently wait for them to come back. She then called Jasper and went out. As soon as they went out, they were met with patrolling guards. "Two misses, it's so late. Where are you going?" one of the guards asked politely. Chu Qingyan glanced at Jasper, and Jasper immediately went forward and replied, "My mistress lost an earring when she entered the temple today. She ordered us to go out and look for it." "Does that miss know where it was dropped? We can help look for it," the guard inquired. "It's probably in the courtyard in front. You don't have to trouble yourselves. We can look for it ourselves and report to my mistress later," Jasper continued. "Okay, then be careful." The guard retreated. At this time, Chu Qingyan and Jasper nodded at each other and walked towards the small forest in front. After reaching the depths, Chu Qingyan stood still and leaned against a tree trunk with a leisurely expression. "Mistress, aren't we going to continue?" Jasper was confused. Didn't she say that they were going out to look for someone? But now looking at her mistress who was looking around, she was very puzzled. Chu Qingyan changed into a more comfortable position. When she was about to explain, her eyes suddenly focused and she raised her eyebrows. "I think the person I'm waiting for is here." Before Jasper could understand, she saw her master slowly turn around and look into the darkness of the forest. The smile on her face was unfathomable. They saw a figure walking towards them from afar. He was wearing ordinary clothes and had a tall figure. His steps were leisurely, and he exuded a charming aura from head to toe. However, when he reached the light, the face that appeared before them was too ordinary. It was so ordinary that if he was thrown into a crowd, he would be drowned out. "Or you?" Jasper immediately stood in front of her to protect her master. She was very alert. That young man did not say a word. He did not care about Baiyu at all. Instead, his gaze landed on Chu Qingyan, who was behind Baiyu. His lips curled into a mysterious smile, making it hard for anyone to guess what he was thinking. "Jasper, don't worry. Go to the side and keep watch. See if anyone is coming." Chu Qingyan patted her shoulder, indicating for her to relax. Jasper saw that her mistress had spoken and did not say anything more. She immediately retreated to the side. While being vigilant of the surroundings, her eyes swept over the young man from time to time. From the intuition of a martial artist, this person was unfathomable. Moreover, his martial arts were above hers. She could not help but be wary of him. Chu Qingyan returned her gaze to the young man in front of her. Spreading out her hands, she said, "My servant girls are more sensitive. Don't mind them." "Since they are your people, why would I mind?" The young man was still smiling. Towards her words, he gave an ambiguous answer. "All right, I won't beat around the bush with you." Chu Qingyan crossed her arms and leaned against the tree. She curled her lips. "What should I call you now? Higashio Motetsu? Or Xiao Ran's subordinate, Mr. Dongua?" The smile on the young man's lips finally turned into a sincere smile. He raised his hand to brush his cheek. When he withdrew his hand, there was a thin human skin mask on his finger. When he raised his head, his devilishly charming appearance was revealed under the moonlight. His frivolous expression was just like before. I told you, no one can imitate your devilish aura. You can't erase this aura. It really is you. Chu Qingyan was stunned. Then she said unhappily. Higashio Motetsu chuckled, I was just about to ask you how you recognized me. Now it seems that you care too much about me. Even if I disguise myself 1,000 times, you can still recognize me at a glance. Your skin is really thick. It's comparable to the capital's city walls. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes. He smiled proudly. Regardless of what she said, he slowly put away the mask in his hand. All right, actually I guessed it was you because of the red mole on your ring finger. The first time I saw you, I felt inexplicably familiar. Later, when I saw you for the second time, I noticed your finger and made a bold guess. Finally, I confirmed that it was when you appeared in this forest. Higashio Motetsu's eyes were smiling as he listened to her slowly dissect him. I just wandered around in front of the guards. You should have received the news. If you are Dongting, you should be able to guess what I am doing out here in the middle of the night. Then, you should show up and meet this old friend of mine. As soon as she finished speaking, Dongting Wangyu clapped her hands and praised, You are indeed the witty and intelligent little girl on the battlefield. You only used a little trick to lure me out. Don't give me that. He knew that she went to the battlefield, but she was a little surprised that he actually knew what happened to her on the battlefield. However, she didn't ask him about it. Instead, she changed the topic. How have you been recently? Why did you come here? Hearing this, Higashio Motetsu slowly lowered his eyes. His eyes flashed with a strange emotion. Some words were on the tip of his tongue, but he couldn't say them out loud. He smiled faintly, and his tone was still as flippant as before. I have nothing to do, so I wandered around when I was bored. You're really unrestrained. Her heart moved and she suppressed the thoughts in her mind. She joked, Speaking of which, if I didn't recognize you, did you plan to not recognize me? Since I'm here, of course it's to see you. Otherwise, why would I let myself suffer like this? He leaned against the parasol tree in front of her and sighed. He spoke as if he had been wronged. Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up slightly. So he appeared beside Xiao Ran because he wanted to take the opportunity to see her? Higashio Motetsu glanced at her and took in her expression. He took out the folding fan at his waist and fanned himself, covering the changing expression on his face. I've been in the capital for a while. I wanted to find a chance to see you, but you didn't go out. I wanted to visit your manor, but I was worried about your jealous fiancé. After thinking about it, I decided to forget about it. The day before yesterday, I heard that you were coming to Hugua Temple, so I made some arrangements. That's why I have today's identity. Hearing him speak with assurance, Chu Qingyan's smile didn't change, but the smile in her eyes faded. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.